The search and seizure of the warrant was illegal because the warrant is insufficient on its face. There wasn't probable cause for the issuance of the warrant, or the warrant was illegally executed. The motion shall be in writing, which that one was. State facts showing the search and seizure were unlawful, which it was. The judge shall receive evidence outside the presence of the jury on any issue of fact necessary to determine the motion, and the burden of proof.
State's reliance on Alford, State versus Alford, the state's reliance on this narrow window that only the Honorable Judge Newkirk suppressed marijuana is frivolous. On page 43, starting line 4, I continued. But then when the court goes through and looks at the search warrant itself, the only way we would have probable cause in the search warrant is if the court finds that law enforcement officers on the day that this happened actually had the lawful right to go in the house and to observe, because everything else in that search warrant does not produce probable cause to search Mr. Williams' home. Then it continues on page 45. On line 4, at the end, I say in the middle of the sentence, nothing is attached showing that this arrest warrant was valid from DeKalb County. On line 40, page 46, on line 5, the next issue, Your Honor, that is asserted is that law enforcement officers entered Mr. Williams' home on the day that we're talking about. And I challenge that in the supplemental motion with the fact that it was read to this honorable court by the district attorney, supposedly armed with an arrest warrant, and there was no need to search or even enter Mr. Williams' home because I'm challenging the arrest warrant was not valid if there is an arrest warrant. And the last issue in the affidavit for the search warrant discusses items that were located by law enforcement officers during the search on the day that you heard about, which I would say is a fruit of the poisonous tree. So I have 3 issues. 1, there is no at all arrest warrant presented to this court. So under Baez, which I have a copy for the court, how can I challenge the arrest warrant? How can the court say it's a lawful arrest of Mr. Williams at his home without being armed with a certified copy of the arrest warrant? Therefore, and I stress this, Your Honor, every of the poisonous tree. On page 47 of the transcript in courts number 2, on line 9, I continued. So the only thing we're left with is the unlawful entries into Mr. Williams' home, and I would ask the court, based upon that, suppress the evidence, grant the motion to suppress. Mr. Bailey then speaks on page 47, line 14, and going to line 18. At the last word, he says, this motion to suppress the search of a home that the defense is alleging is illegal. Nobody's talking about only marijuana. Mr. Bailey continues on page 48, in line 10 in the middle. The only 2 questions you're...
Yo, y'all can't hear it? If y'all can't hear it, tell me. I'll turn it up. But I think what's happening is that they're broadcasting in mono, so it's coming through one channel. It's not coming through 2. What y'all want? You only hear one ear, right? Yeah, that's their audio. It's fucked up, but I can turn it up though.
Anything like that. The court then, page 49, on line 6, says to the state, in which case you would have produced a copy of the arrest warrant. And Mr. Bailey says, right, which would have been a subject, I'm sure, of the suppression motion at that point. And then the Honorable Judge Newkirk said, well, it sounds like Mr. Steele made the arrest warrant a subject of this motion, also in a supplemental motion, which the court file does not have. Why
is this muted?
The prosecutor says, And that is the copy, the supplemental one. Again, he's not challenging the arrest in this case. He mentioned something in there about the DeKalb arrest warrant. If he wants, there's no need to challenge the DeKalb arrest warrant now because the case was dismissed. But there is a forum for doing that, and that may be what they did in the case. Maybe they challenged the arrest warrant in that case. On page 51 of court's number 2, the district attorney states on line 6, that doesn't mean that because there's not a certified copy of that arrest warrant, that has any bearing at all on whether the entry and subsequent search of this house was proper. Everyone's talking, Your Honor, about the entry. That would be the state's argument in the case. At line 11, the Honorable Judge Newkirk said, all right, tell me again about Baez. I'm not familiar with it. What is the site? Is it Supreme Court or Georgia Supreme Court? I say Court of Appeals. I give the court the site. And then on line 51.
51, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And then on line, the court asked me for a summation on Baez again, and I said, okay, that's on line 22. So it's a motion to suppress like we're dealing with here. Law enforcement officers have obtained a search warrant after an arrest warrant. So it's the same sequence here. Going on to page 52, Your Honor. Law enforcement officers utilize the arrest warrant. They call it several things, bench warrant, arrest warrant. And just like Mr. Williams, it was challenged whether it was a valid arrest warrant. The motion to suppress hearing goes forward. The prosecution doesn't put forth the arrest warrant. The Court of Appeals says without the arrest warrant, it is not in the record. We are not finding there was an arrest warrant. It was challenged, and they suppress the evidence and find it is a fruit of, since there's no basis in the record to have an arrest warrant, everything thereafter is unlawful. That's exactly what I think happened here. That's why I used the case. Why did I make the supplemental motion to suppress all evidence located from Mr. Williams' home? Your Honor, I was challenging everything. It is clear. And I'll get to the Judge Newkirk's order because it's not a fair reading of the order to say only the marijuana. That's not true. I didn't write that order, by the way. On page 52, line 23, I say, and I don't want to play games with anybody. I put it in its own paragraph. I made it a supplemental because I realized there was a problem with the arrest warrant. So I made paragraph 7 standing alone or standing on its own. And I wrote, moreover, law enforcement officers were not armed with a valid arrest warrant in DeKalb County at the time of entering Mr. Williams' home. And thus, and Your Honor, I'm stressing this, all evidence must be suppressed on page 53, lines 1 through 5. Then skipping to line 15, I again.
Yo, salute Drunken Driver for I think like 5 gifted. Thank you, brother. Jinx 9110, thank you for 5 gifted as well. Thank all y'all for showing up today, man. We're hopping into it. I'm not even doing intros this week. You feel me? Usually I get right. We're getting straight into shit. But everybody, thank you for the subs. And YouTube should be online. If you guys have problems with the audio, I'll try to fix it. But the audio is a little fucked up through the court. It should be sounding fine when I talk. But I'm gonna keep going.
We challenge that there's no valid arrest warrant, and then it's not saved later, in my opinion, the search, because I don't know how else law enforcement gets in the home. Because now, you know, thank God there's not a shootout in the house where law enforcement had to go there. On page 54, line 5, Your Honor, I continue. So I don't know how law enforcement, without a valid arrest warrant here today, has any evidence to go before the court. And that is why I made an issue of the other items in the search warrant, like the confidential source, the alleged confidential.
Hi, FPS. Thank you for the 5 gifted, brother. I think it's brother. I got to start thinking that it could be Chat Queens up in here, but thank you for the 5 gifted.
The court states, the Honorable Judge Newkirk, on page 55, its ruling. On line 18, the court says as follows. All right, Mr. Steele, I'm going to go with you on this. I think you are correct. I think the burden is on the state to show the initial arrest warrant was valid and initial entry into the house was valid. And he hasn't done that, meaning the prosecutor has not done that. It appears there's no testimony from any officer. Certainly, there's no need for her to go back in the house without a search warrant. It doesn't sound like she searched for anything, so that might have been harmless, excuse me. That might have been harmless error because the arresting officers discovered it and went out and told them. And this is what I'm stressing. Line 4, page 56, the Honorable Court's ruling. But I don't think we get to that hurdle because the lack of authority shown to the court that they had permission, meaning the police had permission to enter the house on the front side. So I will grant your motion, Mr. Steele, if you will prepare a proposed order. I never did the proposed order. I don't know why I wouldn't do that when I'm told. Maybe I did and the judge didn't like it. That's not my order. The bottom line I'm trying to tell this honorable court with as much earnest and power and professionalism as I can is I do not want to relitigate this after I gave a roadmap to the prosecution on how to litigate. If they need me to help them litigate a case, I'm not helping them. The issue here is we had the hearing. I challenged the initial entry into Mr. Williams' home.
Yo, this nigga is tight. Gunner is all smiles, putting back the diamonds in his teeth. He doing whippets out the ass right now, getting his dick sucked by that bad bitch with the new fresh BBL. And Thug's lawyer in court mad as a motherfucker. You hear this nigga, man? This thing is tight. By the way, thank you for telling me that Thug video is old. Yo, I put it on the shelf that I could review to make sure it's new. But god damn it, I kid you not, I thought Thug was going to show up in court and possibly take a plea too. I thought because he's been doing these conference calls where like he's at the jail and they're just like FaceTiming him in every single time. Today's the first time I've seen him show up in suit in court. Usually they wait for that around trial time, but he showed up in suit and he's smiling like a motherfucker. So I thought he was going to walk out. But the way this nigga's arguing, look like they just acknowledge that they're in deeper shit. Thug is smiling, but his lawyer's tight.
I forget the number.
It is D4.
And Your Honor, in the
That's the first one.
thank you, sir. And it's entitled. It's filed. I know the hearing was on the 3rd of April, 2017.
Filed in on the 11th of April,
Right.
2017.
So D4, order granting supplemental motion to suppress.
For those who are just tuning in, let me tell you what's going on. So they're trying to suppress evidence. There's a few things that Thug is fighting. Number one, Gunner just came out and said, yo, remember when that traffic stop happened that you said you caught some drugs and some gun in the car? That shit definitely ain't mine. And I'll testify that it ain't mine, which almost says if it ain't mine and it's only two of us in the car, you know what I mean? One of those type of shit. So they're trying to fight that evidence a little bit. But what they're really also definitely trying to fight is the evidence that they found all these weapons and silencers and shit like that in Young Thug's crib. He's saying that, listen, they didn't have really a search warrant to go look for those things. They only had a warrant to take him into custody, and they went beyond the scope of that warrant. That's why they found those things, which means those things should be thrown out. To keep it real, if I'm going with this judge, I think this judge going to say, fuck out of here. But this nigga, he's arguing. He's trying. He's trying, bro. You got to imagine Thug looked at him and said, yo, Gunner just got out of here on a vacation. Like, bro, what's going on?
The judge got that language. I know I didn't do this order because I would always say the honorable court. This is just not the way I'd write an order. But you know where the court did get the language of what the state was relying, specifically just over announced marijuana? It's in my motion. I said suppress everything, specifically including the marijuana. It is not true what they are telling this honorable court, and that's not acceptable. Then you go to the search warrant. The state wants to rely on a search warrant from 2016. It was signed by the Honorable Judge Woodson. It is signed and it's in your court's file. I believe it's defendant's number 10. I'm going to tell this honorable court. And it was signed on June 27, 2016.
I have the warrant for search and seizure as D10. You introduced that last time.
So, Your Honor, this is the same items that were taken from Mr. Williams' home in July of 2015. It's the same exact items that should have been returned. The state of Georgia has a search warrant. What they don't tell you, and I'm not saying they're hiding, they just didn't tell you, is that they couldn't get into Mr. Williams' devices. They sent it to Cellbrite with the search warrant. And Cellbrite wrote back, and the GBI, we can't get in the devices. The search warrant then is never applied for again to tell any court, like this court, by the way, there was a hearing and all the evidence was suppressed. The state is using then in May of 2017, after Judge Newkirk suppressed the evidence in April of 2017. The state then sends Mr. Williams devices when they won't give it back to him. They won't restore it to Mr. Williams or his father, who had a power of attorney. They go to Cellbrite, and Cellbrite now has better.
I don't know if they're intentionally doing this or it's just like falling out. I don't know if they're intentionally doing this or it's falling out. I'll tell you this though. Why sell the label? Their label Instagram did welcome Gunna back home. So I think people are looking and waiting for the official word on is, and by the way, when the audio comes back in, I'll go back over there. People are looking at the official, what's the official word on Gunna from like thugging them. And shit. This is yesterday though, but the label's Twitter posted first day out with the slime emoji, tagged Gunna, and we see Gunna right here.
The items. They don't get another search warrant. The legislature then says at the last 3 lines of this code section, Your Honor, any search warrant not executed within 10 days from the time of issuance shall be void.
Oh, Mrs. Gill, sorry.
Okay. By the way, to also summarize, they're talking about a cell phone. So Young Thug's cell phone got seized in 2015. Basically, they try to get into it, right? But they had a search warrant. So they try to get into it. The company that usually could get into cell phones, whether locked or not, they get deleted and everything. The company says they couldn't get into Young Thug's phone for whatever reason, okay? Their technology was not that advanced yet. Maybe it was a new cell phone, right? Anyway, they later on they come back to say we can get in the cell phone now, but it's like a year later, and cops say, well, send us what's in there. He's arguing the warrant said y'all could have only checked the phone within that finite time, 10 days. Y'all niggas checked it a year later. Anything you got from that cell phone, including Young Thug talking about, yo, niggas got to get sacrificed for the cause. Thug was talking extra spicy. And basically, he wants all that evidence thrown out. That would be big and a huge win if Thug gets it thrown out, because already, and by the way, I think this is why the state is cutting deals with other people, because if this evidence gets thrown out, the only way you send Young Thug up the river for 30 years is you need the people who was sitting with them, pictured with them, kicking it with them to say, nah, you big slime. You the nigga who ordered all this shit. I seen you did this. And once they start doing that, there will be no more Young Thug. Let's keep it 100.
Here. And they want to do it again. I respectfully ask the court to enforce the collateral estoppel, res judicata, law of the case. It should have been restored. The police should not have had that evidence. It should have been given back to Mr. Williams. He shouldn't even have to ask for it. And I think that State versus Alford, I'm sure the court has read it. It is telling the court something that the case does not discuss. It is just not even arguable that case matters to this. They had additional reason to go into the home, into the car in Alford. They had the automobile exception. That is my argument when you ask me. I hope I answered your question. And I think I'll answer any other question, but I hope I answered your question.
You did, sir. You did. Ms. Rosenwald?
Apparently, most of the defendants are in court.
I know Mr. Steele has an interpretation of the language of the order.
This is a prosecutor. The last prosecutor left to Gwinnett County.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the way it's capped, it's styled and everything else, and it makes sense with what you're asking me to do is kind of just narrowly kind of look at the marijuana and not anything else has been seized. He challenged everything that was taken at that particular point in time, and it's clear in the transcript that he did in fact assert the fruit of the poisonous tree. I mean,
So, Your Honor, if I may, when I looked at this case first and I saw his motion,
Oh, the judge looked like finally he's kind of weighing in Thug's side.
the actual order says. And when I looked at the order, that's when I started thinking it might be something different. And whether or not we interpret it a certain way, the language itself, the plain language, and I know that the directive from the appellate courts has been to look at the plain language of statutes, to look at the plain language of orders. The language itself says, the evidence located in defendant Williams' home that is subject to the above referenced accusation number, specifically the just over an ounce of marijuana. If the court had intended to suppress the remainder of the items after just stating, so the court says, the court grants defendant's supplemental motion to suppress any and all evidence located from defendant's home. He could have just said that, and that would have been a different ruling. But instead, the judge then said, based on this ruling, the evidence located in defendant Williams' home that is subject to the above referenced accusation number, specifically the just over an ounce of marijuana, is hereby suppressed. If the court wanted to make a ruling on the fruits of the poisonous tree, it could have, but it's clear from the transcript. And I'm not going to say Mr. Steele didn't argue about that during the hearing, but he didn't ask the court, hey, Judge Newkirk, can you please make a ruling on the fruit of the poisonous tree? There was no ruling on fruit of the poisonous tree. We're not talking about a second bite of the apple here. We're talking.
By the way, I'm giving some context because y'all might be lost. So what fully happened? Remember I told you about the cell phone thing? The Young Thug's lawyer had went to the court after basically they had his phone for a while. They didn't do anything. They said, okay, y'all got no charges on him? They said, we got no charges on him. You can have your shit back, right? Cool. When they basically were supposed to give it back, they asked for the judge to suppress all that evidence that it could not be used later. The judge agreed. Now that's why they're saying later y'all trying to use evidence like a cell phone that was eventually suppressed because y'all couldn't get it back then, but y'all could get it back now. Y'all could get it now. Nah, no go. Let me see what the judge is saying. Sorry.
it's true or the minimum should have been returned to Mr. Williams.
And so, Your Honor, I do want to pivot that if this court right now today says, hey, I'm wrong, and Your Honor finds that the cell phones are fruit of a poisonous tree, now and only now would Mr. Williams be able to demand his cell phones back. There has never been a ruling on the cell phones until this day, and I think that's really clear from the court's language in the transcript.
I don't know why this is happening.
In the transcript, the court says, and this is in the court's ruling, and Mr. Steele actually read it, it says we didn't get to that hurdle. So this is at page 55 to 56.
Okay. We might take a break from this just because it looks like some things are happening. Anyway, we're piggybacking all over the place. We got Megan Tory shit going on. Apparently, right now, Kelsey's on the stand yet again. She is on the stand. Okay. Let me see. Wait, I'm trying to see if I can see. This was Tory's arrival this morning. I want to know who this young woman is. I don't know if she's an assistant or maybe somebody on Tory's team or maybe some type of attorney, but she seems to oftentimes engage with Tory's attorney like during breaks. Okay. Somebody said that's his mom. I don't think so. I said go back. The audio might be so fucked about trying.
But there's been no time to litigate that. The question.
Let me just refresh it. Maybe it's me.
Previous ruling on the.
No, it's not me. It's the thing. All right, so that's happening right now. Let me see who else has been covering this shit. There's been a few other people kind of covering this. James Quilly. Let me see what he says. There are now raffle tickets for the public to get in to the Tory Lanez trial. what is life anymore? Yes, there's an enormous amount of people that want to go there, and clearly they have limited space. So I see what's going on. And somebody said Tori mom actually passed away. You remember Meg kept saying she got close to Tori because her mom passed away. Tori's mom passed away. Anyway, I do want to really quickly, as we're jumping all over the place until we get some real news out of court. We've been covering the Megan Kelsey case for a bit. Anyway, Young Thug is in court today for a suppression hearing, maybe among other things. I kind of thought it might have been a plea agreement that he may have reached to, which I would have said this whole case is just garbage, because if y'all let go one of the co-founders, which was Walter Murphy, which obviously he's not famous, right? So nobody's caring what plea deal he signed. I got to imagine his plea deal also says he might have to testify too. I'm just saying, right? They're letting some niggas out of jail extra early, and some niggas they're trying to pile on. So you got to realize they're setting sights on few people. Jeffrey Williams, aka Young Thug, is definitely one of them. They're definitely setting sights on. Anyway, the conversation that people are talking about, did Gunna snitch or not? I've been noticing everybody's hesitant to talk about it. And I think people are going to really allow Young Thug to basically come out and either say that dude is snitching on me or say he's not. And honestly, if Thug comes out and Thug doesn't say that Gunna snitched on him, I don't think people will call Gunna a snitch, honestly. You get what I mean? I think everybody's been guarded in their words. I seen Meek Mill yesterday tweet out, yo, welcome back, Gunna. You ain't deserve to be there. But then he deleted the tweet. And I think everybody's kind of in limbo, not trying to jump out the window because, again, at the end of the day, none of these guys in the industry are friends. All of these guys are really just pretending. And in reality, nobody wants to diss somebody or say something or that you can't take back. So I think they're waiting on the official word. Somebody says Milagros tweeted an update. All right, we'll be over there. Come on. Let's see what's going on. She said, what now? She said she was in Twitter jail for a while. It says, she says, okay, so this is Kelsey. Kelsey says the prosecution pressured her to come in and speak in September, and she felt like she had to. She says she hasn't spoken to Tory since she retrieved her items from him on July 13, 2020. She says Tory nor anyone from his team has harassed or tried to contact or speak to her in any capacity. Holy. Essentially, the prosecutor is now trying to spin this angle of saying, yo, Kelsey, tell us how much you got paid, baby. How much you got paid by Tory now? You over here fucking up our case. We can't send Tory to jail with you talking like this. But at least just tell us that nigga is threatening you. Tell us. She's saying, nah, I haven't talked to that dude. Holy. Kelsey is going crazy still. I did think that maybe after a long night of sleep, and she probably seen certain things online where people are saying, yo, you not going to back your friend up, all that type of stuff. Maybe should have either changed her tune or broke down or be like, yo, listen, whatever. Or I don't know, like been a little bit more aggressive in trying to expose Tory. She still seemed like she got no plans to try to say anything meaningful and qualitative that could sink Tory Lanez, which is a big W for Tory. So we're going to keep monitoring that. If she goes live or sends out more tweets, let me know. Okay. Obviously, the thing that people are worried about is did wanna bite the cheese. Okay. Did wanna bite the cheese. Now, of course, 6ix9ine couldn't wait to like kind of talk about it. But even the only rapper who talked about it directly was Boosie. And Boosie straight up said, this nigga's ratting. If you haven't seen the clip of Gunna in court, you know what I mean? As I said, me personally, I would never call Wanna a snitch. I just think he's a truth teller. He told the truth. He ain't tell, okay? And obviously, I'm not in the street, so it don't matter either way. So don't take my word for it. You do your own thing. Hold on. What's that? Shaggy Ali said, heard your girl Milagro was crying outside the courthouse today. What happened? Why was she crying? Let me finish reading. She was crying out the courthouse today, begging for a press pass because she couldn't get a raffle ticket. She's not a credentialed journalist. I think that's kind of fucked up and unfortunate. And hopefully she got in. Hopefully she got in because the credentialed journalists they're reporting so dry on the situation. We're not really getting. Remember, we can't see this shit on TV. So we need somebody that at least describes certain things that's going to take a little bit more opinion. When you hear I talk to lawyers for workers or even Byron, they're very straight edge. And you could tell like they're even scared of reporting that, yo, it's looking good for Tory, just because they don't want to get canceled, man. You know what I mean? Like, they don't get canceled. That's just what it is, and I understand that, you know. Anyway, this is, if you didn't hear what Wanna said, this is what he said.
Around 2016. Is that true as it pertains to you, Mr. Kitchens?
Yes, ma'am.
YSL is a music label and a gang, and you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang.
Yes, ma'am.
You were present when law enforcement officers stopped a vehicle in which you were present along with Jeffrey Williams, wherein hydrocodone, methamphetamines, and a firearm were recovered. These items did not belong to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you acknowledge the following statement? I recognize, accept, and deeply regret
That's it.
that my talent
Dennis
and
Barton's
music
life?
indirectly.
Here's the thing. This whole case with Thug is fucked up. They're gonna be fighting 3,000 battles by the time. Like, yo, right now, Thug is just wasting money. And by the way, he probably got his lawyer on some crazy retainer. So like, it just is what it is. But he's just wasting money, like paying Brian Steele. And I'm not saying Brian Steele's amazing. Trust me, he's amazing. But bro, there's like 59 things that he has to kind of try to defeat for him to have a really good case once they go to trial. They got too many things against him. Now they're going to just throw Gunna on top of the witness list. Now they're going to throw that other guy that's the co-founder on the witness list. What you going to say about them? Like, yeah, you could, like, you going to take it to trial with those guys and say, oh, yeah, now Wanna just weak, or Wanna is only saying this because he want to get out of jail. Bro, you think a jury's about to just be like, yeah, right, okay, we believe you. You go free. So if you ask me, man, I think these are just kind of like placeholder. You know, obviously Brian still got to show that he's fighting. Like, yo, I'm still fighting for my client, not letting up. Let's see what's going on. But I think eventually they're gonna come to a number, and that number is what Young Thug is gonna agree to serve in prison, and that's gonna be that. And once that happens, it's probably gonna be kind of structured where everybody's gonna have to jump on the sword. And here's my thinking. They're probably going to be done giving out, you know what I mean? You got to realize, just think about it. You don't got to be no criminal to think about this. Like, if everybody get locked up, it's first come, first serve. You know what I mean? Yo, the first nigga to tell gets the sweetest deal. Let's keep it a bean. Like, if there's 28 niggas and everybody's like, nigga, I ain't telling no shit. The first nigga who said, all right, bro, give me like a Big Mac and give me some time off and I'll tell you some shit. All right, here's the best deal we can. The deals only get worse from here. You get what I mean? So I gotta imagine that going into the future, like if anybody else is gonna and you see, I don't litigate street politics. So when I'm talking, I don't want to call nobody no snitch. So I'm gonna say state's witness. That's what I'm gonna say. Because Vlad
prior to Judge Newkirk hearing the motions, prior to Judge Newkirk issuing the order that he issued, even if the court were to see it as more expansive than this,
what just happened
is, we had probable cause based on information and sources independent of the fact that the defendant had marijuana or firearms or whatever it was that was seen when the officers initially entered the home to execute what was and what is. It doesn't change it. The fact that the arrest warrant that was in existence at the time actually was valid and gave them lawful authority to enter the home does not.
Judge Newkirk ruled that you didn't have that at that point in time, because at the hearing that you had in front of him, or Mr. Bailey represented you all on the 3rd of April of 2017.
Tell everybody to refresh. I don't know what just happened. Sorry.
Particular certified copy of the arrest warrant, and so Mr. Steele by argument says, hey, look, I am extending my motion. I'm going to include everything that's in the house because you weren't validly in the correct space and place. Now, had you had that search warrant at that point in time, or not search warrant, but the arrest warrant valid at that point in time, then Judge Newkirk would have probably said, okay, well, then you're fine. But that wasn't that, these particular scenarios have to be ruled upon in terms of what the judge has at that point in time. So if you look at that, even if I accept, which I have, I've admitted, states 1, 2, and 3, you still have to return the man's property. He's asked for it to be returned. He hasn't had it returned pursuant to 17-5-30, because I can't go back and unring the bell in terms of Judge Newkirk's. You're not saying Judge Newkirk's ruling was erroneous, are you?
I'm saying that Judge Newkirk's finding was that we had not presented a certified copy of the arrest warrant, which is not the same as that there was an unlawful search and seizure. It's just that the state had not tendered.
On 3 April.
They said "La Bebe" and D Savage trying to hack my computer, bro.
So you're asking me at this point in time to say, hey, Judge, we can correct that. On December the 15th of 2022, you've introduced states 1, 2, and 3 certified copies of the arrest warrant, the return of search warrant and inventory, and the affidavit for search warrant. And that's why I'm telling you, assuming that is now corrected, the problem that you still would have is the return of property under 17-5-30, because you took the marijuana and the other pieces of evidence from Mr. Williams' home. I don't think the law distinguishes between that. So you would have had to return that. You still would have to return the property to him. So because at this point in time, he's entitled, or he would have been entitled, he's asked, and Mr. Steele has already introduced from in the last hearing on the 17th, he's asked me, or he's introduced a letter that he sent to Mr. Bailey saying, hey, I want the evidence back.
Your Honor, but the court did not rule that the state had to return that evidence, number one. There was no ruling as to that.
I disagree. I disagree with you. I disagree. By implication, Judge Newkirk had to have considered the fruit of the poisonous tree. Mr.
that the state had to return that evidence, number one. There was no ruling as to that.
I disagree. I disagree with you. I disagree. By implication, Judge Newkirk had to have considered the fruit of the poisonous tree. Mr. Steele asked him to do that. And it's a snapshot in time. So on the 3rd of April, 2017, you didn't have what you have now. And so you're asking me to correct something that is arguably, I mean, can I do that? I mean, and even if I can, that still runs afoul of 17-5-30. You still would have had to return Mr. Williams' property. And then Mr. Steele asked you for the return of that property. And there's no exception under 17-5-30 pretrial that gives you the ability to keep the property. You have to return the property. And then you took that particular property, in particular his phone, and then you extricated things out of it, which would be tainted or fruit of the poisonous tree, because you didn't have the right to keep that. You didn't have the right to keep that particular evidence under 17-5-30.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's the ruling. That's the ruling, man. The judge trying to free Big Slime out the cage, man.
All right, let me finish what I was going to say. Okay, for purposes of Mr. Steele, you can prepare an order. Okay, sufficient to recap what the court has indicated during this particular motion. Now, I know that puts us in a position where some stuff that you may have the state was going to admit or utilize. Does that change your position, ladies and sir, about where you are with what would be admissible in this particular prosecution?
Your Honor, there are items that, of course, are affected by the courts suppressing the evidence that was seized back in 2015. There are some items that we believe may have more evidentiary value than others. And so it does affect.
That's my boy Uncle Phil right there, man. Salute to Uncle Phil.
Introduced in this case.
Well, I was just asking because if you need to sit and talk with Mr. Steele about what you can agree that would be not admissible at this point in time, given my ruling.
Why is this thing cutting out? This is not me. This is the feed directly from the court. While this is cut, let me see if I can go to live. Yeah, it's still cut out. Not too sure why that's happening. Let me see if Nancy Dillon
Of the telephone company. The court went on to say that neither defendant, as one user of the telephone, nor the other defendant, as its lessee, had standing to object to the production of these records by the telephone company. Further, Your Honor, Regis, R-E-G-I-S-T-E.
One more time, R-E-G what?
I-S-T-E.
Okay.
Versus the state. And that is 292, Georgia 154. It's a 2012 case that is directly.
By the way, Mantis on YouTube, thank you for the 20 donation. He says, Merry Christmas, Zach. Appreciate you.
Telephone billing records are business records owned by the telephone company, not the defendant. As a result, defendants generally lack standing to challenge the release of such records under the Fourth Amendment because they do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy in records belonging to someone else. And that's a pen site of 249 Georgia 462 at 460.
So now they're going over phone records saying, yo, Young Thug's lawyers trying to get phone records tossed out, but they're saying no, those phone records came from came from T-Mobile, nigga, and unless T-Mobile is challenging it, we could keep it. And basically, even though you have a reasonable expectation of privacy in your home and on your phone for those calls, unless there's a search warrant or some wiretap, the phone records is actually not yours, so you can't argue that. That's what she's trying to say. Now, let's see what the judge says.
Expectation of privacy in the cell phone records of the Hertz Corporation. He has no.
Remember, they're saying that Young Thug rented the car from Hertz that was ultimately used to drive to the location to kill one named Nut. Okay, that individual apparently was very close with YFN Lucci. That started a whole beef between YFN and YSL. YFN is also, there's 16 members or 15 that actually are charged with the Racketeering Act, and there's 28, well now 27 because 26 because Gunna and the co-founder just slid out of that bitch.
Corporation wanted to contest the release of its own documents. The Hertz Corporation and only the Hertz Corporation, and all that they released, I will also make clear, it's not at all anything comparable to information contained in cell site location data that a person has within a cell phone that they keep on their person and that moves around with them. These documents.
By the way, somebody made a valid point. We do have some info on some paperwork for Gunna. Now, granted, paperwork don't mean you automatically snitch, but apparently this is the plea paperwork that is out there for Gunna. And it says Gunna has agreed to a certain couple of things. I mean, you heard him pretty much verbally agree to it when he accepted the plea and he later signed the plea. But here we go. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Paperwork would probably be, where's the paperwork? I might be scrolling down too far. Yes, I think I'm too far with it. Let's see if we can find it. Anything with Gunna, first pick, paperwork right here. Bingo. This is the paperwork, the pertinent things. So we see 1 year being commuted. His 6 or 7 months commuted to 1 year, time served. The remainder is suspended, which is 5 years. Okay. Next we see this is the special conditions. The parties agree that upon completion of the special conditions enumerated in 3B below, the suspended sentence will terminate by consent order. Okay, so they're saying that the only way you could get this consent, the only way you could get this get his sentence really terminated and also get the suspended sentence in place, he has to, if called by any party in this case, you will testify truthfully. Chat, I don't even know, like, we do love Gunna, but I don't even know what we're talking about here. Like, nigga, if it's in your plea agreement, if called by any party in this case, you will testify truthfully. No, come on now. Like, I think, some people are politicking it. I think all y'all want to hear is, yo, he ain't get up on the stand yet. Well, nigga, he ain't get a chance to. The trial ain't start. This is pre-trial shit we're hearing. This is all pre-trial shit. So he ain't get it. I will bet with anybody, if anybody takes this shit to trial, which, by the way, ironically, all of them, or YSL had a song called Take It to Trial. I guarantee none of them going to take it to trial. But if anybody takes it to trial, Gunna's on the stand. Facts. And Gunna's on the stand, and he has to point niggas out. That's what it is. He has to. It's in black and white, or actually red right here, nigga. He says, if you're called by any party, there's 26 other people that haven't resolved their case. If 26 other people don't plead out and any of them take it to trial, he, by signing this document, has to take the stand. I don't care what y'all say, he got to take the stand. It's right here. I know how to read English. If called by any party in this case, you will testify truthfully. But you reserve the right to assert your Fifth Amendment privilege, which, by the way, that's about self-incrimination, not incriminating another motherfucker. So, hey, if anything that you haven't told us, so he doesn't have no immunity deal. If you haven't told us about anything, or we didn't find out about anything, we only charge you with this one thing. If you get up on there and somebody asks you a question like, yo, like say the prosecutor said, did you used to smoke crack with him and sell crack with him? He's not charged for selling crack. He could evoke his Fifth Amendment because that would incriminate himself for selling crack. But if the question is, yo, say he never sold crack and he knows that guy sold crack. Hey, did that guy ever sell crack? Gunner has to say, yes, he used to fucking sell crack. That's what happens, bro. Bro, it's right here. Agree to perform 500 hours of community service, complete at least 350, a substantial portion which will require you speak to young men and young women about the hazards. Yep, this is a TI-like plea. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not calling nobody no snitch because I'm not in that realm to even care about people who are snitching. I'm just telling you what this fucking document is saying. This is basically, yo, TI, go record a commercial. Except they're not telling Gunner to record a Crime Stoppers commercial. They're saying, go talk to all the kids and tell them, don't do what you did. Don't join gangs. Sorry. He says you're going to be talking to them about the morality of gangs and gang violence and the decay that it causes the community. You agree that community service locations shall be determined by the Office of Fulton County District Attorney. Okay. There's this other part. It says that he's also a first offender. It says he can't have any guns. He can't have any guns during the term of the sentence or any time thereafter unless your right to do so is restored, and you cannot commit any criminal acts. And here it is. It seems like he's a first offender. And hey, you could say, well, he probably won't have to tell whatever. But I think the only reason why he was even eligible for this is because he didn't have that many. I don't think he had no charges like that. It says this is a first offender conditional discharge. First offender conditional discharge. Yeah, there it goes. And the defendant had to sign here. If you're firearms, you're convicted of blah, 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 whatever. Okay. For him to get out, he had to sign here. And it says Sergio Kitchens. Now, y'all can make your mind up on that. I don't want to tell y'all what to think. Anyway, let's get back to this.
About the state's method of obtaining the records from hers. So I would ask that.
Let me deal as a preliminary matter, threshold matter. If that's the case, the records, your client would not have standing. I would grant the state's motion as to the curse records.
Understood.
Okay, so is there any other basis that for asking for at this point in time?
So they're saying that the records that Young Thug rented the car that was used in a murder, they're still keeping.
Mr. Sprinkle, if you allow me to briefly proffer.
Okay, you're going to proffer as to why you need to call Mr. Sprinkle.
Yes, because I think that's where it starts. So what happens, Your Honor, is Mr. Williams is wrongly targeted by law enforcement for 10 years, since he's 21 years of age. And during those 10-year period, there's a systematic abuse of process by the people who claim that other people break the rules, and that's the District Attorney's Office of Fulton County. And what I'd like to call Mr. Sprinkle and prove to this honorable court is as follows. First is what you just heard from. Law enforcement officers and the District Attorney's Office is aware that the Honorable Judge Newkirk found that law enforcement had no right to go into Mr. Williams' home in July 15, 2015, take devices. The prosecution does not restore those devices. You already ruled, I know Judge Newkirk ruled, but that's part of the issues. What right does the prosecution, the District Attorney's Office, have to keep that property and then to send it to Cellbrite without a warrant and have it searched? I want the court to consider that. Then I want the court to consider the following. The fact that the District Attorney's Office did not go back to a judge and say, we have this property, we're supposed to give it back. We are doing another investigation, we want another search warrant. They just go and Cellbrite, I would introduce through Mr. Sprinkle, says, as a courtesy of the district attorney's office, we're going to look at this device. I would like the court to have that in its breast when deciding whether there's extreme prosecutorial misconduct. Then what happens is grand jury subpoenas. I'm not moving to suppress anything at this point. I'm not waiving any argument, but I'm not moving to suppress. But this is how the grand jury subpoenas were given out in this case. And it's not only hers, it is every grand jury subpoena. I've attached them to the motion. And what the grand jury subpoena shows is that from his office, presumably, Mr. Sprinkle is on every one of these. He has a district attorney seal.
Yo, chat, real quick, not breaking news. This is exactly why I had to sit that thing on. I can't read it verbatim. Why my mama gonna text me and said, she says, hey, she said, why your auntie called me and told me you're on TMZ and says you're defending yourself against, let me just leave it alone. You know what I mean? I told you I can't make headlines with certain people, bro. Like my family looking at me crazy. Like, they don't care about no other headline. Wait, what the heck? You know what I mean? It's like my family's like, wait, what's going on here? You and some dude named Saucy Santana? Wait, hold on, what's going on? Yo, they don't care about nothing else. We from Jamaica. They're like, yo, why is you and that person's name even like I'm like, you see why I had to mama set me straight. Yo, my mom probably wish I get my ass whipped by a little baby more than me going back and forth with a nigga with a beard and a BBL named Saucy. Listen, for real, I can't disgrace my Jamaican heritage. I gotta chill. All right, back to the NC Dillon chat. Hold on.
And the court's inquiry review is what reasonable expectation of privacy do you have or standing do you have in these records?
This is not the issue. This issue goes to dismissal of an indictment for prosecutorial misconduct. Mr. Williams was indicted. I'm not trying to suppress the evidence based upon your ruling and the case law. What happens now is there was such egregious misconduct by the district attorney's office.
So you're saying you'd like to examine Mr. Sprinkle for his motives or for as to why he sought these particular documents in this prosecution.
I want to subpoena, well, I have subpoena. I want to call Deputy District Attorney Mr. Sprinkle because I want to ask him why he believes he had any right, which I'm contending violates Mr. Williams' rights to due process as stated in State versus Lampel, LAMPL, 296 Georgia, 829. It's in Division 2, 2015 case. It's in my motion entitled Mr. Williams' motion to dismiss indictment and or motion to suppress evidence filed on 11/3/2022. And what the Supreme Court of Georgia held was it is an extreme remedy to dismiss an indictment or a count thereof.
Real quick, I see someone in the chat asking one of my subsies, RT No Class, update me on what happened with the cell phone. The cell phone's out of here. They're now arguing about a very important piece of evidence. They're trying to connect Young Thug as some kingpin who took out a car from Hertz, gave it to the basically foot runners and say, yo, you niggas go do a murder, okay? That's what the prosecutor believed. That's why they believe that car was connected to the murder of Nut, because allegedly that was a car used. They're trying to suppress that, but it doesn't look like the judge going for this. They did go for the cell phone. The cell phone's out of here, where he was talking all this, yo, we young slime niggas gotta die for the cause or sacrifice, all that shit.
It has nothing to do with this motion. This motion is not a motion to suppress. It is a motion based upon a violation of due process rights because everyone here, I assume, joined the motion. Everyone here is suffering from the state of Georgia's unlawful.
Right now, they're trying to do a pretty much a motion or argument to dismiss the whole case. saying that the prosecutors have just taken too much cuts in the corners that this should even be a case, and they've violated everybody's rights. They should throw this whole thing out. I think this is going to get shot down.
296, Georgia, 892, Division 2, 770 Southeast 2D, 629, 2015. I had the honor of representing Mr. Lample. On that case, it went to Court of Appeals of Georgia, then the state sought certiorari, and that's how the Supreme Court got that case. He's the mayor of Mara. Mr. Lample's the mayor of Mara.
Okay.
And that's why I would like to call Mr. Sprinkle, because he's sending out, under the auspices of a grand jury subpoena, with the district attorney seal, without the clerk seal, outside our state. They've taken evidence from Mr. Williams' home, not returning it, searching it, regardless of Judge Newkirk's finding. And then, Your Honor, what I'd like you to consider, and Mr. Sprinkle would be asked, there's a recording in a grand jury, and it happens on June 15, 2018. Mr. Sprinkle and law enforcement officers who were present in this courtroom subpoenaed a woman named Ms. Morton, Morton. They brought her before the grand jury in Fulton County. They didn't like that she wasn't talking with them. They put her under oath. And they said, it's Mr. Sprinkle is said on recording right at the beginning. It's at 10 seconds of the recording. He says, because in Georgia, it's not an investigative grand jury unless the court deems a special purpose grand jury. It's not federal court where you could do an investigation. The state of Georgia, you need a proposed bill of indictment already against the person and what the charges are. State of Georgia versus Brian Steele, here are the charges. What Mr. Sprinkle tells the grand jury is, this is not an indictment under consideration. We are just here to hear Ms. Morton testify. That's not valid. So I'd like to ask Mr. Sprinkle what right he had to use the grand jury as a district attorney's investigative tool. Those are my five issues. The search warrant, the search of the devices, which already ruled. Why did that happen? Why did the subpoenas come without a clerk? Third one is, why would the subpoenas go outside of the state of Georgia? The fourth one is, why wouldn't you return the property? And the fifth one is, why would you bring a human being before a grand jury when you don't have a real bill of indictment, and you tell the grand jury that this is not a bill of indictment under consideration? What right does the district attorney have? And that's why I subpoenaed the young man.
Okay.
Your Honor, the defendant still has not addressed the issue of standing as to any of these.
He's indicted.
No, Your Honor. The conduct that he is complaining of, he has to have been aggrieved. He has to have an expectation as it relates to that conduct.
I think that's what he's asking me to test. I think that's what he's asking me to test. And he's also saying, hey, he's an aggrieved person because he's under indictment for these bigger charges. So,
and Your Honor, if I may, I don't know why Mr. Steele cited Lample in his brief, because it actually supports the state's position in this case. In Lample, a special purpose grand jury investigated the defendant and subpoenaed that defendant. In this case, it isn't even that the defendant was subpoenaed to testify. He is talking about a person who didn't even yield information that was used against him. He is asserting that actions that he has no right to complain of should be somehow used as a basis for dismissing a lawful indictment against this defendant. So he is, I guess, attempting to leverage the court's ruling previously into something that simply doesn't exist. He does not have a right to complain of the actions he asserts were unlawful or improper. He simply doesn't. And he hasn't addressed his being indicted alone does not give him standing. to argue or to complain about the fact that Ms. Morton was taken before a grand jury, or that a subpoena was sent to a corporation or a company or an entity that the defendant has no expectation of privacy in. He simply doesn't get past that initial threshold. And by continuing to fold one argument into the other, he attempts to subvert what the courts
Why does she keep having a chat? Anyway, we here, man. Let me know if we're getting any other updates. They're trying. I don't think this is, they're trying to get the whole case dismissed. Man, the prosecutors need to stop playing. Obviously, they got to fight every little thing, but they need to just drop the bomb. We got mad snitches on
Supreme Court, they've been indicted, and when the Georgia Supreme Court says, nope, you last standing, it being indicted doesn't afford them standing to argue about matters that they have no right to complain about. And so he has bundled up a whole bunch of matters as they relate to other entities. Frankly, with respect to Hertz or any other entity, they can simply give us the documents we requested them.
Hold on, we got some updates from Megan Cunniff. She said thread broke, but here comes info about the detective coming testimony. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, I think we read that already. We're in the hallway, prepared to get in. There's another line. People blah, blah, blah. Reporters noticed that this morning that no one from the public was allowed inside the courtroom during the outside of jury discussion about the detective and other evidence issues. Wow. So no one from the public was allowed inside the courtroom. One issue the judge is considering is whether the prosecutor should allow them to play the entire 80-minute. Oh my God, they're desperate. They're desperate. They're trying to play the keep in mind, this happened 2 years ago. They just interviewed Kelsey in September, and because Kelsey didn't say what they want to say, they're like, we got to play her whole recording. Obviously they recorded it. We want to play the 80-minute recording from her in September based on questions Tory Lane's lawyer asked in her cross that the DA said unfairly questions the DA approach. So basically they want to say, we're down to play the shit to show y'all that there hasn't been prosecutorial misconduct in fucking trying to get her to testify. We really thought that she was telling the truth at first. She's the one switching up. We ain't pressure her at all. You know what I mean? So obviously they're going to play it to see if they're trying to coax her or trying to pressure her, you have to testify, or if you don't testify and Tory says you did it and we don't get him, we're going to get you. That's interesting. All right, cool. Let me see what else. Yeah, I think that's the latest. Okay. All right. Back to this Young Thug shit. Let's see what's going on. All right. Look like they're either taking a break or something. I think the judge has left the. I don't think I see the judge at the seat here. Maybe he is. You guys could. Actually, I think he still is. He's looking at the computer. You can tell me if he starts speaking again. Again, I think this case has just gotten incredibly still difficult. They scored a major win today, so salute to Thug. I think Thug's lawyers is doing the best they can. I don't believe they're going to go to a trial eventually. I think they're going to try to fight this for as long as they can to somehow weaken the case as much as they can to get a favorable plea from the prosecution. But I don't see them going to trial. And the reason I don't see them going to trial, and by the way, I think they're playing a time game. I think the more and more time goes on, the more and more defendants the prosecution is going to flip as witnesses, whether it's going to be overtly niggas who are saying, yo, that nigga did it, or a nigga be like, yo, well, I'm down to tell you the truth about some shit. They're going to be jacking up that witness list. And I think they've clearly identified that Thug is the main person they kind of want in that. They will not be happy if Thug gets anything below 10. And right now, based on how his lawyers are going about it, the longer this takes, the more they're probably going to be unwilling to give him, oh, yeah, time served and do the rest out of jail. I think they'll probably push towards, no, nigga, we need some significant time. And just off the fact that this is a public issue now, like they don't want to look like they've been unfair or biased or they don't know what they're doing or they're stupid. So now they're kind of dug in. Thug's lawyers are dug in. And we're going to see if this goes to trial. You know, YSL had a song called Take It to Trial. I feel like I bet 100,000 this shit don't go to trial. Why the hell would you go to trial with this shit? They got all type of data. They got cell phone records. By the time they're done painting the picture, they're definitely going to get you guilty of at least being in a gang, right? They're going to be like, yo, he's at least guilty of the gang. And if they really get you good, they're going to be like, you've called all the murders, right? And now if they got you as the head honcho who called and ordered all the murders, even if, and I think some of them guys is going to go down on murder, right? Even if you don't motherfucking even if you don't get charged directly or you're not on those bills or that those particular charges for murder, I think they're going to sentence you to some significant time. Significant. And again, I think at this point 10 years is light. What I think about Young Thug's sister saying it, I can't say she's saying it to say, oh, he ain't snitching, we cool with him. I think she's saying, yo, listen, right now, Thug knows he can't say nothing to Gunna. He can't put out no message in the air to say Gunna's a snitch. He can't do nothing. And to be honest, he also would rather, you know, Gunna's still in the gray area where maybe Gunna says, you know what, fuck it, like I still have a rap career if I don't ever take the stand. So who knows? Let's get to trial. And Gunna says, I ain't taking a stand. I ain't taking a stand versus my brother. You get what I mean? So they're not just trying to blow it up now by just making, yo, he is snitch. You know what I mean? It's right now Gunna took a plea, but pretty much it's only intent, like at least on the prosecution side, it's only intent to testify. He ain't testified yet. With 6ix9ine, they saw that nigga up there. Or actually, most of them just plead out. As soon as they see that, they plead out. The only difference is niggas like Shotty just didn't have any chance. And also niggas like Shotty didn't have like a big bankroll like Thug. Thug is ironically the top of the ladder and the richest nigga who's on the trial. So everything falls on his shoulder. React to Charleston White talking about Gunna. That would be great. Okay, this went out again. What Charleston White say? You know Charleston White gonna say some good shit. Charleston White, Gunna.
I'm doing something great. I've been doing since been pimping. and setting the record straight. I'm gonna make it cool, boy. We got Gunna, one of the biggest rappers, goddamn it, on earth. Done agreed to cooperate and stood before the court and said, Your Honor, I want to make this clear. Y'all a gang, right? Yes, ma'am. And you did wrong, right? Yes, ma'am. What anybody else can say that's in the gang? We not no gang. We're a rap group. We're a rap label now. The boys before you that was in this rap label that you trying to say y'all a gang. And people died in the name of this gang. That's your ass, Mr. Rap Man. I want to see, and one thing I want to say, y'all named Lil Boosie, we need you to speak on T.I. Lil Boosie, we need you to speak on Toe Tapping Tippy.
What?
Toe Tapping Tippy.
Nah, stop.
We want to hear what you got to say, Boosie. Big Facts podcast. We want to hear what y'all got to say. 85 South, DC Young Fly. We want to hear what y'all got to say about your boy Toe Tapping Tip. Now, the boy done got away. Y'all forgot the nigga got caught with all them X pills, him and his bra, remember? Remember him and his bitch got caught with the motherfucking X pills while he was on the federal probation after the guns. Y'all don't remember that, do y'all? How did that go away? Toe Tapping Tippy. And from what I hear, them girls is still on his ass by them putting his foot in their pussy. Now, damn woman in the world won't no motherfucking foot in the pussy. Now I heard some fisting going on, but that's some old sick cave sadistic white boy shit. Putting your foot on the pussy, that don't make nobody come. Nobody gets to come with the feet tapping on the pussy. That ain't pleasurable at all. And she might get a gangrene, a fungus infection, because feet is nasty. Yeah, motherfucker get gangrene on that pussy from them feet. Nigga done something wrong in the motherfucker. Some niggas say it's all right to put your mouth, but all I know is dick and pussy go together, nothing else. Dick and pussy go together, nothing else. All right? That's the lesson for today. Dick and pussy go together and nothing else.
Mr. Bailey's, not Mr. Bailey, but Mr. Sprinkle. You're challenging
tell T.I. take the
by
fight.
way of
Yeah,
the
fuck
evidence
all
that
that.
you
Tell
were
that nigga take the fight.
presenting, or that.
Hold on.
Yeah, man. Shout out, man. Say, I got some niggas send me a prayer, $400 prayer, motherfucking me. The whole goddamn shit. Say it was an old nigga in front of the road looking up every had 3 women with video right here, and I be looking at the motherfucking video like this. Nigga pulls the trigger and kills somebody in the process of them stealing starter jackets. I thought we were YSL. I thought we would shoot them up, bang, bang, kill them niggas, shoot them niggas, come back and spin the block again and shoot an innocent victim, come back and spin the block again and shoot his little sister, come back and spin the block again. Now we shoot him finally. So now we done all this. All us is in this together. Remember, we gang, y'all. What happened to a plea bargain is I'm agreeing to tell on us, because by me telling on me, I'm telling on us, y'all. Free Thugger, I hope they give him at least 10 years. I want to see, do he really like wearing dresses? Yeah, I want to see if Young Thug really like wearing dresses, because out here he was painting his motherfucking fingernail. He was wearing dresses. He was giving us mixed signals as if he was gay, and he didn't know he was gay. Let's see if he gay. Now we can finally see if Young Thug gay. See, a jailhouse don't bring out the gayness.
I'm gonna be honest though. I don't think Young Thug got broken by jail, ironically. So I really got to believe that whatever Thug was talking about, I'm not saying he was living it, but he understood the consequences of it. You get what I'm saying? Now, Gunna, I don't even know how Gunna found a new chick in jail. That shit's crazy to me. You could tell Gunna could have waited to come out. Gunna found a new chick in jail. This thing ain't even want to come out single to find a new chick. He found one in jail. That's crazy. Nigga, that's crazy as hell. Gunna was already lining some shit up in jail because he wasn't. He probably was telling her, man, them folks told me I'm about to do 10 years. Nigga, I'm about to be out here in 2 weeks. I don't know what they talking about. Shorty, send me another picture of that BBL. Remember, you can't show the pussy because you got to come through the mail and, the wardens be hating and shit like that. But I'll be out here in 2 weeks. Fuck that. Fuck that. Matter of fact, yo, where you want to go for New Year's Eve? Fuck that.
I should go to that penitentiary. That penitentiary, they got some ways to bring out that shit out them boys down there. Say, no, we need that boy to go down there and see if he really thugger. See if he hugger. See, yeah, we need to see if that boy go be down there and stand on them rap lyrics. Or they go get him down there and see if they can paint his fingernails and get him to wear some of them dresses that they like wearing when they put the sheet over the window. Yeah. So we don't want to hear nothing about freeing no motherfucking thug. We already see the rest of them ain't tough. We see Gunner and the rest of these boys ain't tough. They ain't even been gone a year. They already done broke weak and took the plea agreement. They were supposed to do like them goddamn white boy bikers out of Waco. Y'all hear me? They were supposed to do like them white boy bikers out of Waco.
That is true, man. When it comes to solidarity, man. When it comes to solidarity, clearly, like, yo, them dudes out of Waco, they stood together. Niggas, man, you know what it is, bro? Let's keep it real about, like, telling and all that shit. Bro, people got too many things going on for them, bro. People got families. People are walking companies. Gunner's a walking company. He got his mama, he got like all his relatives relying on him. He got situations going on, bro. Like, all that real nigga shit, stop, bro.
Had a shootout with the police at that motherfucking Twin Peaks restaurant. Not one white boy said a word. They didn't take a plea or nothing. People died, police got shot, police killed people and everything. This made national news. Not one white boy biker said a word. They didn't take a plea agreement. So I'm starting to think that white boy motorcycle bikers is way tougher than gangster rappers. Yeah. I want to see somebody go fuck. Say, listen, if anybody can bring that hoe up out of you, the prison conditions can bring it up out of you. So I recommend every nigga think he tough. I recommend a stay in prison. Yeah, I recommend a stay in prison for your motherfucking ass. Nigga, you think you tough? Okay, we got somewhere for you now. If you come out of here tough, boy, you tough. Yeah, if you can come out of here tough, Junior, boy, you tough. You can rap however you want to rap. You can come whoop whoever you want to whoop. Yeah, man, I'm telling you. Yeah, I know some niggas been whooping ass ever since they come out of prison. They whoop their ass in prison. They whoop ass out of prison. Now, they don't just whoop everybody. They give ass whoopings to words worthy and warranted. I'm so happy. This is a great day in the black community. Gunner is out of prison. I never thought I would be happy to say y'all, Gunner is out of prison. Now, I'm glad he got out by telling. I think that was smart, Gunner. I'm a Gunner fan now. I'm a goddamn Gunner fan now, boy. That's all y'all finna hear in my motherfucking CD is Gunner. I'm gonna tell. That day, Gunner. I'm gonna tell, nigga. What? I'm the new Gunner. Yeah, that's the one. Gunner. I'm gonna tell, nigga.
Nah, I ain't gonna lie. Charleston White too funny, man. Charleston White is one of the funniest niggas in the game, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Hold on, let me get back to this shit.
That I said you didn't have any standing to see what Mr. Sprinkle in fact did present to that grand jury and what he told them. So
I actually won't do that. What I'd like to do is, why did Mr. Sprinkle serve grand jury subpoenas? Why did he do the process the way he did? I'm not going to ask anything about what happened in grand jury, except I have that recording that was given to us in discovery.
Was it discovery?
Yes.
Okay.
Will not ask anything about what occurred in a grand jury except what was given to Mr. Williams in discovery by the state of Georgia. It's a recording.
Wes, do we have a copy of the motion to suppress? Yeah, that's what the motion was.
Go now, people. Young Thug fight for his life. And Curly Gunner is taking like 1,500 whippets right now, man. Who y'all rather be? Young Thug in court or Warner, who is right now nestling his head in the ass crack of an IG model with her oversized body? I ain't gonna lie. It's at the point Young Thug might have to find a nigga to tell him. He might have to find some other devious shit to tell him. Be like, yo, I thought I was bad. I know something worse. Let me out. Come on. Yo, you know that's the game, right? Be like, oh, where'd y'all want me? I know a nigga who do some shit worse than me. Get him and let me go. I found Gunner's ting too. Y'all want me to bring up Gunner's ting? How Gunner bag this in jail? Y'all niggas is free walking around, going to the gym. Y'all outside every day. Y'all can't even get bitches like this. Gunner was locked down on 23-1. He get an hour to shower, an hour to shave. He get an hour to shower, shave, workout, and call his family, and he still bagged a bad bitch. What excuse you got? Gunner bagged a bad one while he was locked down for 23 fucking hours. What fucking excuse you got that you fucking with 2s and 3s or beating your dick every day with no pussy? Let me see if I can find her.
Okay. I will on the issue of the. All right, I think I'm back on at this point in time. In terms of the motion to quash the business records, I'm also going to grant the motion to quash the subpoenas, both subpoenas 1 and 2. The court is of the opinion that of the relevancy of the newspaper records, but also they're protected by work product under 24-5-501. And for those reasons, I'm going to deny, I'm going to grant the state's motion to quash on those two subpoenas. All right, anything else?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. I have some proffers I need to deal with.
Hold on, Chad. I'm gonna find it.
Mr.
Chad, if y'all got an ad name, send it to me. But I saw it earlier.
Mr. Hoover?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, before we do that, I just want to bring the court's attention. Mr. Kendrick has voted to suppress.
Oh, yeah, we got her.
On the record, we have a witness here, I've spoken to counsel, he doesn't intend to go forward on that motion. If you're
He does not intend?
we were hoping we could release our witness who's in here, so.
Yes, any objection, counsels?
No, just to be clear, we're not withdrawing the motion. We would just like to argue that on another time.
And your name again, I'm sorry.
Doug Weinstein.
So right here.
T-I-N-S-T-C-I-N.
Mr. Weinstein, what is your client, what's your client's name again?
My boy Gunner.
Kendrick.
Holy. Fresh BBL.
Your Honor, we're just hoping our witness might be able to go.
Well, you know, folks, I like to be able to accommodate everybody, but you saw what happened this morning, okay? We had a technology glitch that nobody could have foreseen, I should say, and we're kind of a little bit behind. So we're a little bit behind in terms of just being able to properly conduct court.
Yo, chat, Gunna bagged her in jail, nigga. What's your fucking excuse? Gunna bagged her in jail, nigga. He only had 20 minutes to like surf the Wild Wild Web, nigga, or what's it called, World Wide Web, nigga.
Turn yet.
Oh,
You
son!
jump in front of Mr. Steele now?
No, I am not jumping in front of
Okay, all right. What is it you'd like to tell him?
Well, I filed the exact same motion that Mr. Steele filed
And
regarding
your client is, sir,
Stillwell.
Mr. Stillwell?
And that
Okay.
was filed on November 16th. And
The motion to dismiss the indictment
motion to dismiss the indictment.
and motion to suppress evidence. You wish to table yours at this point in time?
I have not heard you rule on the actual motion, just on the subpoenas. And I would just point out to Your Honor that our argument is not based on any Fourth Amendment violation that would require standing, but rather prosecutorial misconduct, which I believe as citizens of the United States, we all have standing to challenge. And Mr. Stillwell, who has been indicted and investigated in part by legally issued subpoenas.
I'm going to deny the motion to dismiss the indictment. Okay?
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure it was on the record that I too have filed that motion and.
All right, I'm with you. Okay, all right. So to the extent that's been ruled upon, that's fine. Anything else?
Thank you, Judge. Just want to hear for the record.
Yes, Mr. Menezes.
I have failed to adopt the motion in writing, but I did want to respect the record that that's on me. And that was effective. But I do want to orally also adopt Mr. Steele and Mr. Sharp's motion. Misconduct.
All right. Well, you probably should reduce that to writing, but Ms. Rosenwasser, if you will include that in order, please, madam.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm going to, in the motion to suppress and motion to quash, okay?
And Your Honor,
You can-
would you allow me to incorporate Mr. Steele's argument into the record on behalf of Mr. Steele as well, so I do not need to cite to the same cases and.
Yes,
Thank you.
so we'll include you as well. Okay, anybody else? All right. Okay, before
By the way, it's during the time when there should be another break in the Tory and Meg case, so please let me know. I'll switch over.
Yes, Your Honor.
okay, do you have the issue of the proffer that you'd like to complete at this point in time? Do I have any, I was going to ask you to complete that issue of the proffer. And then also, if there's anybody else who we still need to deal with the issue of the proffer.
I'm not sure which proffer.
Ms. Rosenwasser, you want to address that, please?
Your Honor, I believe the court is referring to your continued, Mr. Hoover's continued representation of Mr. Someone after you were disqualified as to Mr. Blaylock, to see if Mr. Blaylock was on.
I don't have too much, just, we could go back to the live version of this. Yeah, this is really horrible, like reception that's coming from this feed. If you want to recap on everything that I've gone over so far today, right? And we've been streaming for 3 hours. Number one, Young Thug's lawyer successfully knocked out the cell records that showed him communicating and ordering things that would be in congruence with being a gang leader. So he was saying, yo, niggas got to do this, or niggas got to get out the way. He was talking with other gang leaders that established Young Thug to be a leader of a gang. That will not be admissible in court. That will not be allowed to be used by the prosecutors. Okay, so they're going to have to use a lot of probably witnesses that they have now turned, including Gunna. And I'm sorry to say it, Gunna is a possible prosecution witness who would probably be called to testify to the hierarchy of YSL, whether in a component of being a gang or a music label. Just say, hey, listen, if Thug said something to somebody else who was YSL, would that person listen? Would they do it? Would blah, blah, blah. Do people have to listen, have to come to Thug for permission? In the indictment, it said that when niggas wanted to do something to YFN Lucci, they had to go out of their way to try to get the permission of Young Thug. That all goes to the narrative that Young Thug is a leader and probably a top, if not the highest member of YSL. They've at least got the cell phone stuff out the way. Now, they claim not only that Young Thug is a top guy in the gang, they believe that Young Thug has ordered or probably was behind the death of one named Nut, which sparked the beef with YFN Lucci and the YFN family or the YFN gang, whatever they call it. Now, Young Thug's lawyer said, no, you shouldn't be able to use the info that Thug ordered the car. The judge did not agree with Thug's lawyers, and they, on that particular situation, said the prosecutors are right. You don't have any right to the records of what Hertz has, and Hertz isn't going to come in court. You know, there's few companies that historically have gone to bat for their customers to say, hey, we don't want to share our info with you. And it's not really that they cared about the particular customer. They cared about the principal. Hertz don't give a fuck. You rented their car, you did a drive-by in it, or you did a shootout in it. They're going to tell on you, or they have not tell on you, but they have no problem with giving the records up. The judge said that is going to count. Now, you had Young Thug's lawyer who said, well, there's a lot of like, gray area and a lot of lines crossed by the prosecutor. We should probably throw out the whole case because really this seems like a lot of prosecutorial misconduct. The judge disagreed with that. They're trying to knock down some other stuff, and currently the judge is looking at it now. Essentially, it's a win for a loss. And by the way, if you ask me, this is my personal opinion, but I do believe that the judge, well, not the judge, the prosecutor probably thought about giving Gunna that plea because they knew this would happen. This was being put into the air from time, saying that there was illegally obtained information that was in this case, that without this information, the case would be significantly weaker. That is true. However, the prosecutor, I think, has made up for it because they have given a bunch of pleas to the other guys who will now tell on Young Thug anyway. So they're like, all right, fine, we don't got your cell phone, but we got a bunch of dudes you were texting. By the way, the co-founder, who they just also gave a plea, is one of the niggas he was texting. So whether they have the phone or not, if Young Thug takes it to trial, they're gonna be like, okay, we can't use the phone info, but let me ask him. We could bring him up on stand and said, hey, has Young Thug ever hit you up and said, hey, listen, for the niggas got to get sacrificed for the betterment of what we got going on? And that person is going to be obliged to say yes based on the plea he got to say yes. Young Thug did talk about niggas got to get sacrificed for YSL the gang. You know what that then proves? Young Thug is one of the leaders of YSL the gang. Then they're going to bring up Gunna. Hey, Gunna. Hey, what's your deal with this? What do you know about this? You know what they're going to pinpoint with Thug? Hey, listen, in that situation where we got pulled over when there was a bunch of shooters in the back with other cars, but even specifically the car, did Young Thug have a bunch of drugs and gun in that car? You stated already in your plea, it ain't yours. Is it reasonable to assume it was Young Thug's? Remember, maybe he could invoke the fifth and you could think of some Kelsey shit, but at this point, it looks like he probably got to say, yo, I know Thug, that gun was Thug, or those drugs was Thugs. You know what I mean? It is what it is, bro. Like, again, I know y'all want to, like, we all over here, like, nah, we love this shit. I love all these guys' music, but it is what it is, okay? So I caught you up. Hopefully we'll get like a final ruling on everything. I'm waiting for this. It's not the best feed in the world. We're also waiting on the Kelsey trial. The judge is reviewing a bunch of stuff, is reviewing, let me see. It looks like he's about to speak again. Let's see.
Okay, Ms. Harvey, did I answer your inquiry? Yes, thank you, Judge. I'm just here to get my COEs from this response.
That's not true. He's old enough to where he don't need COE.
That's true. That's true. So is David. you hit 105, you don't need that.
Well, I heard you saying that on 70, you're good, so, yeah. Was that easy? All right, okay. I'll track that. Okay, is anybody else? That you otherwise not told me you'd like to go ahead and entertain your motion? Ms.
Well, Your
Black?
Honor, I have a different issue. I was just retained and just filed my entry, so I do not believe that I have any motions pending, but I'm not sure if there were any that were unheard by previous counsel.
Okay, what are you representing on the table?
Trontavious Stevens, Your Honor. Mr. Flugel had to withdraw because his wife had a medical issue.
Yes, that's true, and we are familiar with that issue.
Yes, sir.
I would like, he has several motions that I'm waiting to serve. If he ever rule on any motions that I know we argue some.
Your Honor, some of the motions were ruled on, I think the demurs that Mr. Floyd handled last time.
Yeah, Ms. Black, I've got a couple, but he's got a motion.
I'm sorry, Judge, maybe not hearing it.
One more time, one more time. On the record.
Thank you, Judge.
There is a motion to limit the testimony to facts stipulated in the plea colloquy. I don't believe we've taken that up or taken that issue. I know that we ruled upon the special demurs as to counts. Count one, acts 48, 49, 50, 52, 53, and 54. And the special demurs to count one, acts 127 and 132. Mr. Floyd, did we take up anything else in regards to as it relates to Mr. Stevens? I believe that you argued and I ruled upon those particular motions the last time they were here, sir. Is that correct?
The ones that you just described, Judge, yes, you did.
The lady in the pink keeps typing because she's probably the stenographer. So she's the person responsible for the transcript. They probably have an audio device that's also like, doing it technologically, but also she's going to do her own. And then they kind of like join them into it. Then they'll redact it before the public because all these are going to be public. Criminal hearings are going to be public. Sorry. What the fuck? Is this shit just muting randomly? I didn't turn it off. These are bailiffs. This is a stenographer. This is the judge. There's other bailiffs around here. There's a lot of defendants in the court, so there's probably more than enough bailiffs, you know what I mean, in case niggas start getting rambunctious. Don't know. Like right now, the audio is up. It's not me. React to the Boosie video about Gutter. Did Boosie make a video? What did Boosie say? Go to Say Cheese Twitter. Here we go. What's Say Cheese Twitter? Let me play what they said happened. Is there audio or no? What am I looking at? What am I looking at? He said this happened. I can't hear anything. Yeah, so it's not my audio.
We will certainly entertain you at some point in time, okay?
All right, this is back. This is back.
Anybody else? Okay, all right. Ms. Love and Mr. Floyd and Ms. Hilton and Ms. Rosenwasser and counsel, it's all of you. all of you. I know that we were supposed to take up the jury questionnaires. I think I'm going to not take up those issues today. I'll wait until probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. Since all the lawyers are not here, most of them will be here probably on Monday or Tuesday, and resolution may affect some of those particular folks. So,
chat, why y'all say delete blog type shit? All right, chat, please stop. We ain't deleting shit, okay? We're not deleting shit, okay? All this means is that, I mean, I give you the option. I'm not restarting YouTube because we don't post the full block, the full VOD on YouTube anyway. But I could delete this. We could not just publish this VOD. Like, I'm cool with not publishing the VOD. Anyway, let me see. Someone said Thug's sister has posted Gunna. Dolly White. Where did she post Gunna? That's key, ain't it? No, I little got it. Okay. This is her story. She messaged no jumper at 159. Take that down. She says, I'm a sister, a mother, whatever you want to call me. But please, and I say please, let the court and the judge do their job. That's all I ask. I don't mean to come off to the wrong to no one. I pray for every last one of them. I pray for others. I pray for every last one of them, people, even others that I may not agree with, but I do have a heart and you're not taking things too far. Salute to Dolly. She's doing what she needs to say, and why wouldn't she say that? She's the sister of Young Thug. Now, in a weird world, not in a weird world, if y'all watch all them Wires and all these gangster movies, sometimes maybe a nigga will get out on a plea like that, but he'll now take care of everybody. So he not a snitch. Hey, listen, the snitching shit is negotiable. I'm telling you the truth. Maybe it's like, yo, Thug ain't gonna get out for a while. Let Gunna get out on this, right? And Gunna go finance everybody, make sure everybody's good. He gonna get back to work because money's not coming in right now for YSL. That's a fact. But now we could get Gunna back to work. Money's coming in. Dolly was complaining not too long ago about like maybe like, you know, bills and stuff like that. Hey, bills paid this and third. Hey, it might be an agreeable situation. Who knows? Maybe Thug had a conversation with himself or his lawyer say, yo, I'm fucked. I'm fucked. I'm not getting out of here for a long time. Only nigga who could get out of here quickly is Gunna. Let that nigga get out of here. Even if he got to act like he ain't got nothing to do with nothing this and third, or even potentially say some shit to hurt me, whatever. But damn, he get back on the streets. He back feeding the team. It's still YSL. Fuck it. Who knows? Bro, who knows, bro? I'm telling you. Gunna might be out here to secure the bag. Yo, listen. And let me tell you this. If you ask me, bro, this is millions of dollars in legal fees. And I know all these niggas brag about all the money they got. Bro, we ain't here. Trust me, I've been watching. I know all these niggas' residences. I ain't see one get put up for foreclosure or for sale yet. You know what that mean? Mortgage is still getting paid. It's harder to track cars, but I could imagine they still own all their cars. Still paying the car note. Maybe they took the insurance off, but probably got to pay the insurance too. Trust me, these dudes got bills of excess of $300,000 a month. Every month that you're locked up, you're paying this without getting anything back. Somebody got to go make some cash. Lawyers for Workers update. Let's go. Lawyers for Workers. Come on. Chat, tell me if y'all getting tired of this, man. I know y'all rock with me, though. Hold on, here we go.
Justifying.
Stunning new images tonight show hundreds of migrants lining up along the southern border, planning to wade through the Rio Grande and cross into the United States. The surge is just days ahead of the end of a pandemic-era policy known as Title 42. What this means for those seeking asylum. It's been nearly 35 years since a bomb downed Pan Am Flight 103 over Scotland, killing 270 people, most of them U.S. citizens, on a plane bound for New York just before Christmas. Today, several decades later, the terrorist suspect accused of making that bomb was in an American courtroom. It's the second largest terror attack against Americans in U.S. history. Tonight, what federal prosecutors have said about seeking the death penalty. The rush for a repair plan after a devastating oil leak in Kansas. Nearly 600,000 gallons poured from the Keystone Pipeline into a creek. Now the concern is not just for the environment, but also that gas prices might skyrocket once again. We're breaking it all down by the numbers. Coast to coast weather chaos. Winter alerts stretch from California to Wisconsin tonight. And blizzard conditions, rain, wind, even possible tornadoes. And as that system moves east, millions are preparing for heavy snow. Our Ginger Z times it all out for us. The trial begins. Rapper Tory Lanez is accused of shooting another rapper, superstar Megan Thee Stallion. The two were once thought to have a romance, but now they're facing off in court. Prosecution says Tory all but admitted to it, while the defense calls this a case of jealousy. ABC's Zareen Shah is inside the courtroom.
It's difficult because the criminal justice system will say innocent until proven guilty, but as this case is being tried in court, it's already been tried in the court of public opinion for the last 2+ years.
An act of sweetness. Rapper Sweetie is teaming up with her grandmother to launch a new nonprofit to teach financial literacy to Black and brown children in underserved communities. My conversation with the two about why it's so important to make sure kids understand the ins and outs of money.
Now it's time to teach the kids on how to invest their money, save their money, and spend their money.
A good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Tonight, we begin at the border, where there is a new surge of asylum seekers and major concern as a pandemic-era policy is about to end imminently and may overwhelm resources and push already stretched border communities to their breaking points. This is the scene at the border in El Paso, where thousands of migrants have already crossed and been arriving each day. Many are forced to stand in the cold for hours, in some cases throughout the night, to wait for a chance to claim asylum and fully enter legally. Just over the past 3 days, El Paso Border Patrol says they've averaged 2,400 daily encounters. Under Title 42, the government has been able to turn away most of the thousands of unauthorized migrants without a hearing. Well, that policy is set to end next week, and when it does, the system could be overwhelmed. Some are now expressing concern about the lack of a plan by the federal government to deal with the end of Title 42. We're standing by to speak with an El Paso County commissioner, but first, Matt Rivers leads us off from Juarez, a community right across the border from the U.S.
These are the scenes in the shadow of downtown El Paso. Hundreds of migrants crossing the Rio Grande in a matter of hours overnight. Border Patrol only able to process a handful of migrants at a time, allowing women and children to go first to stay out of the cold. Many forced to spend the night on the riverbank, burning whatever they could find for warmth.
There are hundreds of people lined up on the other side of this river here. I've been coming to this exact spot in Ciudad Juarez for years now, covering migration. I've never seen anything quite like this.
Migrant facilities quickly overwhelmed. Border Patrol officials telling ABC News they are at capacity and have to send migrants elsewhere along the border. Unauthorized border crossings in El Paso are now averaging more than 2,400 arrests and detainments per day. Today, adults carrying children through the river. This ahead of next week's possible end of Title 42, a Trump-era policy that allows for the immediate expulsion of migrants without allowing them to seek asylum. Olnedis and her daughter came from Venezuela. They are waiting to cross until next week.
Yo tengo fe que sí pueda pasar. de
She
que
has
voy a
faith that
pasar.
she'll be able to get in. Pero si no puedes entrar, ¿qué vas a hacer?
Ahora, de verdad, no sé.
She doesn't know what she'll do if they don't let her back in.
Olnedi's telling me she wants to cross legally
Quiero hacer las cosas bien.
and she wants to make it to the U.S. for her daughter.
And Lindsay, as you can see, there are still hundreds of people behind me waiting to be processed by Border Patrol. Many of them have been out here for hours already. They're facing very high winds, temperatures that will drop below freezing very likely overnight. In many cases, this is a very difficult end to what already has been a brutal journey just to get to this point. Lindsay?
Joining us now for more on the situation at the border is El Paso County Commissioner David Stout. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. A senior DHS official described what's happening to ABC News as a, quote, absolute mess. And over the weekend, the El Paso sector averaged more than 2,400 daily encounters. We've seen the images coming in from around El Paso, thousands lining up to try to seek asylum in the U.S. after illegally crossing the border. At this moment, does the county have enough resources to deal with the influx of crossings?
Well, we are at this point, of course, asking the federal government to, of course, help us with this. We've submitted a request to FEMA for $32 million for the year, chiefly to cover the cost of operations for a migrant support services center that we have, increased shelter capacity and transportation. So, of course, local taxpayers, in my opinion, should not have to foot the bill for this, and we're working with the federal government to try to get this help.
As some have been calling on officials in El Paso to declare a state of emergency over the increase in border crossings, do you think that that's necessary?
I don't think that that is necessary. We are trying to focus on making sure that these folks are received and welcomed and that they can get to their final destination. These folks are here. They're applying for asylum protections, and that is a legal way to immigrate to this country. And we feel that we should try to help them as they continue on their journey.
What about the prospect of Title 42 ending as soon as next week? We've known that this was coming. You and other border counties have had months to prepare for this. Does the county have the resources if you are inundated with even more asylum seekers?
Well, that again is why we requested that $32 million for this next year to cover those operations, the shelter capacity, and the transportation, because we do expect to see an increase in the number of folks that will be admitted.
And so where do things stand? What's the status of that $32 million request?
We have yet to hear back from FEMA. I do know that we have already received close to $7 million from them in upfront payment, and we fully expect that they come through with the rest.
And how would you divide the money? Is that just for staffing?
So yeah, we have a migrant support services center where we are processing these folks. We're doing right now about 600 transfers a day. 600 folks are coming through that processing center on a daily basis, and so that's to pay the vendor who's operating that facility, to pay for the rent in that facility. Also, we're looking for a larger facility. We are also wanting to look at increasing shelter capacity, and then also some of that cost is going to be going to transportation. So helping, the border authorities transport these folks either from the border to our facilities, or from the NGOs to our facilities, or from our facilities to transportation hubs so that they can get on their way.
Of course, it's about to be the holidays here. From a personal standpoint, how do you feel when you see these images, the desperate families who have decided that their best path to a better future is crossing a cold river and leaving everything behind in the hopes that the U.S. will give them asylum?
Well, it's definitely heart-wrenching. So many stories of just terrible conditions in the sending countries from which these folks are coming. But El Paso County is committed to humane treatment of migrants. The crisis, in my opinion, is the mismatch between the reality of people coming to contribute to America and the lack of a system that is prepared for that. And of course, demagogues preventing a solution by hyping the border as an existential threat to the United States for political purposes. they'll keep doing that until it stops working. And what happened to the optimism of America? These are laborers, these are doctors, crafters, engineers. We shouldn't be building walls, literally or figuratively. America grew from successive waves of immigration from its inception. And to try to close the door behind us now is to lose faith in the promise of our country. And so I'm committed, and I think El Paso County is committed in our role as a welcoming doorway to the United States of America.
It sounds like you are certainly committed to the idea of bringing your tired and your poor, as was initially intended. Commissioner David Stout, we thank you so much for your time and insight tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, we do have some breaking news that we're tracking out of the Bahamas. Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of crypto exchange FTX, has been arrested. Let's get straight to Aaron Katersky, who is here with us now. Aaron, as you were sitting down, you said that this came as a bit of a surprise.
We knew Sam Bankman-Fried had been under investigation, Lindsay, ever since the collapse of FTX, but he was supposed to testify before Congress tomorrow. So at least lawmakers did not anticipate his arrest tonight. But we just got word from the Prime Minister of the Bahamas that his nation, along with the United States, are committed to holding as many people accountable as possible for the collapse of the crypto exchange, and they want to see justice done. Word is that he was arrested on a warrant out of the United States. The specific charges aren't yet known, but we understand that that indictment should be unsealed tomorrow.
Just 30 years old, Sam Bankman-Fried is. What do we know about the investigation and the billions of dollars that seemed to vanish as this business imploded?
Vanish in an instant, Lindsay, really. And while we don't know the specific charges, we do know the general direction of the investigation by federal prosecutors here in New York, along with securities regulators. They were looking at Sam Bankman-Fried's use of customer funds from FTX to satisfy orders from Alameda Research, which was the trading firm that he founded, and whether, the question is, did he misappropriate funds from one entity to the other?
Is there any chance for people who invested in FTX to get some money back?
That's going to be the big question, whether the authorities can recover any of the missing funds. But so far, at least publicly, we don't know where that money really is. The authorities have had some luck in recovering funds from schemes past. Think of Bernie Madoff. Just last week, they recovered another $14 million. Okay. So now those investors, those victims are 70% whole. But here, this is a whole new kind of scheme, although the investigation seems to be more traditional, misusing customer funds in one entity to satisfy the debts of another entity, if that's what the charges actually are.
The classic robbing Peter to pay Paul,
That's
seems. Right. Aaron Katersky, our thanks to you, as always. Now to the coast-to-coast storms packing a major punch tonight in California, Sierra Nevada mountains. Trains work today to plow snow off the tracks after as much as 6 feet of snow fell in some places. And now the system is headed to the heartland. Our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, has the track in a second. But first, Mola Lange reports from Lake Tahoe, California.
It brought feet of snow to the west, and now that massive, powerful winter storm system is making a run across the country. Blizzard warnings posted for the northern plains. The National Weather Service warning travel may become impossible due to the heavy snow and strong winds. On I-84 in Utah, a charter bus traveling from Boise to Salt Lake City overturning on slick roads before dawn. More than 20 people hurt. The storm blasting the Sierra Nevada mountains with snowfall rates over 4 inches an hour and hurricane-force wind gusts over the weekend.
The storm dumped a few feet of snow on the Lake Tahoe area, burying homes, knocking out power lines, canceling schools. Residents will likely be digging out for days.
Near Donner Pass, plow trains racing to clear the tracks. And in the Northeast, the first significant snowfall overnight, more than 9 inches in spots. Slick roads, testing drivers. Wrecks across the Boston area Sunday. Boston's Logan Airport dealing with a combination of snow and de-icing delays. Dozens of flights canceled.
We can understand why there were so many of those cancellations. Mola Lange joins us now from a snow-filled Lake Tahoe, California. Just an incredible scene where you are. And Mola, some parts of the Sierra Nevada saw up to 6 feet of snow. People clearly have their work cut out for them as they try to dig out the next few days.
Well, yeah, Lindsay, I mean, folks have their work cut out for them, at least for the next few days here. I mean, as you can see, cars buried under a few feet of snow, homes blanketed. In the meanwhile, power crews continue to restore power to the thousands who have lost it. Roads still a little slick in some spots, but continuing to make progress. All of this as the storm keeps pushing east, Lindsay.
Had to reveal ultimately that there was actually a house buried underneath all that behind you. Mola, our thanks to you. And let's get right to our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z. Now, Ginger, time these storms out for us.
Yes, it's really important to watch as this blasts across the country how many people are going to be involved, because right now my in-laws in Tucson, Arizona are under a winter weather advisory, but all the way up to Ironwood, Michigan. So there's a lot of folks that are involved here, Lindsay, and wind alerts, and then really that blizzard warning is what I want to focus in on first. So parts of Colorado, Montana, eastern Wyoming, but look at that Rapid City in South Dakota. Easily, if you're traveling Interstate 90 through there, we're talking about the types of winds that will be in excess of 35 miles per hour, coming with that blowing snow, visibility to nearly zero. So the highways, 80 or 90, going to be really tough, especially as those kind of isobars, as we call them, tighten up, and that means just super windy conditions. Now, that's the northern side. You could see up to 2 feet of snow in some of those plains areas. On the southern side, it's going to be all about the severe storms, and that starts tonight. We've got a tornado threat, damaging wind threat that includes Wichita Falls, Texas, up to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then by tomorrow afternoon, we move that same line associated with the cold front over to Alexandria or Shreveport. And so you see we stopped it there at 5 p.m. It's blasting through even eastern Arkansas, eventually Memphis. The worst of the severe stuff looks to be on the southern side, because this time of year you need the heat and the moisture. New Orleans by Wednesday at 5 p.m. So there's the kind of tornado risk for tomorrow, and it includes parts of Texas, Mississippi, and Arkansas. But we want to move it to the Northeast, because this is what you need to see. If you're living in the Northeast and you say, okay, I feel it tonight. Winter's certainly here. Well, we ripped the Band-Aid off and we're not going to be able to put it back on. You see right there, interior New England especially, and parts of the Northeast away from the coast are going to pick up more snow. And I'm talking 6 to 12 inches by the end of this week and the start of the weekend, Lindsay.
Most of us will not make it through this unscathed in some manner or form or fashion here. Ginger, our thanks to you. Now to the court appearance for the man accused of building the bomb that took down Pan Am Flight 103, which was the second largest terror attack against Americans ever. The plane exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland, just ahead of Christmas in 1988, killing 270 people, most of them U.S. citizens. Here's ABC's Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
It was the horror that played out just before Christmas nearly 34 years ago, the second deadliest terror attack on Americans ever. Pan Am Flight 103. The massive 747 was in the air less than an hour before an explosion in the cargo hold sent the plane plunging from 31,000 feet into the Scottish countryside, killing 270 people, 190 of them Americans, including 35 Syracuse University students on their way home for the holidays after studying abroad. With so much debris from that falling plane, 11 people were killed on the ground. And tonight, the man accused of building the bomb that blew up Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988, making his first appearance in a U.S. court. The FBI claims while in prison, he confessed to a Libyan officer that he built the bomb that brought down the plane. And in court today, authorities on how he carried out the bombing and how the bomb was made. According to the Justice Department, Abu Aguila Masood brought the bomb made from a cassette recorder and hidden in a suitcase, wrapping the bomb in clothing and bringing the suitcase to the airport in Malta, where it was loaded into the cargo system unaccompanied by any passenger. Eventually, it made its way onto the flight at London's Heathrow Airport before departing for New York. Masood, a Libyan intelligence officer under Muammar Gaddafi, now the first suspect charged in the bombing to appear in an American courtroom. The tragic loss still raw for the families of the victims. Victoria Cummick's husband, John, 38 at the time, was killed on that flight.
I wasn't sure if, within my lifetime, we would be able to see the day.
The families of those 35 Syracuse University students have never given up hope for justice either. Kara Weeps lost her brother.
I was woken up and it was like, wait, is this a dream? And it was unbelievable that it was really happening after all these years.
A memorial on the Syracuse campus just weeks ago.
And those lives not forgotten. Pierre Thomas joins us now. And Pierre, how did Masood end up in U.S. custody? What kind of punishment could he face at this point?
Well, Lindsay, U.S. officials have not said how he came to be in U.S. custody, but if convicted, he faces up to life in prison after DOJ prosecutors said today they would not seek the death penalty.
All right, Pierre Thomas, our thanks to you as always. Tonight, health officials in the country's two largest cities, Los Angeles and New York, are urging people to mask up inside this holiday season. The surge in RSV, the flu, and COVID all continue, and American hospitals are at nearly 80% capacity. Our Stephanie Ramos has the latest.
With COVID cases now surging on the heels of flu and RSV, tonight, health officials from Los Angeles to New York are urging people to mask up indoors to stop the spread.
Part of me feels like I should be wearing a mask just to protect myself because the numbers are going up. The other part of me feels like I've received 4 vaccines and I don't feel like I would, end up on a ventilator or would be hospitalized. It would be maybe a minor cold.
Nearly 80% of adult hospital beds are already full, capacity strained by a perfect storm of COVID, flu, and RSV. The University of New Mexico Hospital has never seen it this bad. They had to set up this surge tent inside a parking garage.
Our emergency departments have been holding somewhere between 80 to 100 patients that are admitted that are waiting for beds in the hospital because the hospital is so full.
COVID cases are climbing. The number of Americans dying of COVID is up 62% in the last week. 90% of the deaths are people 65 and older.
I don't want to be dramatic about this, but I also want to be very honest about it.
Experts warn the Omicron subvariants circulating now are increasingly immune evasive. With holiday gatherings looming, they stress it's critical that seniors and the immunocompromised get that new Omicron targeted booster shot now.
It's really important that people sort of shake off this COVID fatigue and lethargy.
Officials want people to snap out of that COVID fatigue. Stephanie Ramos joins us now. Stephanie, with increased wait times, what kind of guidance are hospitals giving when it comes to going to the emergency room?
Well, Lindsay, doctors say, of course, if someone is having trouble breathing, go to the ER. As for children, there can be other serious signs with that, like wheezing, dehydration, or if they have a fever for 5 or more days. But for milder symptoms, doctors are urging patients to turn to their doctor's office or visit an urgent care. Lindsay.
All right. Stephanie Ramos, our thanks to you. WNBA star Brittany Griner is recovering at a military medical center in San Antonio 4 days after being released by Russia in a prisoner swap. And there are new details of her journey home, as well as what the White House is saying about efforts to bring the former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan home. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Mary Bruce.
It's the reunion 294 days in the making. Brittany Griner back with her wife Sherelle, seen in these new photos with the top U.S. hostage negotiator Roger Carstens, who personally escorted Griner home.
We talked about a lot of things, anything from her time held in the Russian penal colony, going through the trial process, obviously her love for Sherelle, her teammates, everything that she missed. The things that she misses about the United States and America.
Tonight, Griner's receiving treatment at a military medical facility in San Antonio, and for the first time in nearly 10 months, picking up a basketball. Her agent telling ESPN she went straight for a dunk. Griner freed in a prisoner swap, the U.S. turning over notorious Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout, nicknamed the Merchant of Death. Pressure is now growing on the Biden administration to bring home another detained American, Paul Whelan, a former Marine imprisoned on what the U.S. calls bogus espionage charges.
I will just say that the conversations with Paul Whelan's family have been substantive. They have had a number of very good questions and also a number of suggestions that they've put forward.
Moscow had once floated a request for the release of Vadim Krasikov, a brazen Russian assassin currently serving a life sentence in Germany. But that's Germany's decision to make. Tonight, the administration's also saying they won't change their stance on Ukraine to win Whelan's freedom.
What Russia was asking for to secure Paul Whelan's release was not something that we had to be able to give. That is a problem we are trying to solve.
A problem they are trying to solve quickly. Mary Bruce joins us now from the White House. Mary, we heard Jake Sullivan there say that this is an issue that they're still trying to solve, but it seems like this may be an uphill battle.
It certainly does, Lindsay. The White House tonight says that they will have a high-level engagement with the Russians about Paul Whelan's case later this week. And the administration is now vowing to be, quote, relentless and creative in their efforts to get Paul Whelan back home. But so far, everything that the Russians seem to be asking for are things that the U.S. just isn't willing to give. Lindsay.
Seems like those options are off the table in many cases. Mary Bruce from the White House. Thanks so much, Mary.
Thank you.
And when we come back, the head coach of a major program charged with domestic violence. She may be known for her catchy hooks, but rapper Saweetie tells us about one of her other passions, how she's helping young people create a better financial future. And a legal battle involving two hip-hop stars. The trial for Tory Lanez, who's accused of shooting Megan Thee Stallion. Serene Shah sat in on one of the first days of the proceedings as the prosecution laid out its case, and the defense claimed a third person is actually responsible. This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
in Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
Here at the White House.
Destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5. Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go. We made it.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7 straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Get ready, America, every Friday.
The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes!
And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA. You're going to love it.
Bring them on. If only there was a place in the morning to start my day. With a smile, somewhere to help me get in the know. A place that's spectacular as well. Me? I think we might know a place, right, guys?
Bring your friends.
Oh, wait, there is.
Good morning, America.
GMA, 7A, every day. Boom. 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 Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, America. How are you?
Boom. Now that's how you start your day, people.
All right, here we go. Ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Yes. So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. With a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning. America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television. So, what's good to read? And we mean really good to read right now. Well, that's where Charlie and Kate Gibson can help.
Join us for the new podcast series. It is called The Bookcase with Kate and Charlie.
We will make sure you love what you read.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
As of today, in a big way, we have inaugurated abcnews.com.
A lot has changed in our world since Peter made that announcement. But what hasn't changed is the commitment to groundbreaking reporting and innovation at abcnews.com. And here's to everything ahead.
All across the globe, the world will be celebrating the new year, and you can see it as it happens live. The global celebrations. See the new year as it comes in live. Streaming all day and night on ABC News Live.
University of Texas coach Chris Beard is facing domestic violence charges. He was arrested in Austin earlier this morning, accused of strangling a family member in his home. His attorney is disputing the allegations, saying the coach is 100% innocent, but university officials are monitoring the situation. It's a case that's fueled debates among hip-hop fans for 2 years now. Music artist Tory Lanez is accused of shooting rapper Megan Thee Stallion. And while some of the case is already played out in the court of public opinion, it's now being presented in an actual courtroom. One side is painting it as false accusations brought on by envy, and the other as an unwarranted act of violence. ABC's Serene Shah was in the courtroom today as opening statements began.
Walking into an LA courtroom, music artist Tory Lanez greeted with a message of support.
Good luck, man.
The Grammy-nominated star facing legal trouble involving Megan Thee Stallion, known for her chart-topping hits.
I'm a savage, yeah. Classy, bougie, ratchet, yeah.
The two artists, long rumored to have had a previous romance, now facing off in a downtown Los Angeles courtroom. Megan Thee Stallion, whose real name is Megan Pete, accuses Tory, whose real name is Daystar Peterson, of shooting her in the foot 2 years ago in the Hollywood Hills. Tory is charged with 3 felony counts: discharging a firearm with gross negligence, assault with a semi-automatic firearm, and carrying a loaded, unregistered firearm in a vehicle. If convicted, he could face nearly 23 years behind bars. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges stemming from this night, July 12, 2020. Video obtained by TMZ shows part of the night. You can see Tory on the ground as Megan walks backward from an SUV, leaving a trail of blood. A third person exits the car, Megan's assistant, Kelsey Harris. In today's opening statements, the defense painting this as a case about jealousy, saying Kelsey had a previous romantic relationship with Tory. They say it was actually Kelsey and Megan who got in an altercation that night. The defense also said a witness saw a woman with a gun.
We kind of heard the reasoning as to why Kelsey Harris has the gunshot residue on her hands, and that came up in a preliminary hearing earlier on in this case, and it makes sense. If Kelsey as well as Tory Lanez are in a small confined area, like an SUV, and one of them shoots a gun, that residue doesn't have far to go, and it can land on the person's hands who shot the gun, but also any innocent person who's in the car as well. But whether or not that creates reasonable doubt is up for the jury to decide in deciding who actually shot the gun.
The prosecution says Kelsey actually texted someone for help, saying Tory shot Megan. They also shared sound of Megan sobbing in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, where a surgeon removed 3 bullet fragments from her feet. And prosecutors played a recorded phone call of Tory from jail and showed text messages, both with him apologizing. And prosecutors say he even later told someone he was the shooter. Before those tense moments, Megan and Tory were seen on Instagram Live, hanging out in a pool with Kylie Jenner, reportedly at the reality star's home.
Tory, don't get my phone wet.
In an interview with CBS Mornings, Megan said that when she was ready to leave, others were not, leading to an argument that spiraled.
All I hear is this man screaming. He said, "Dance, bitch," and he started shooting. Like, he shot a couple of times. I was really scared because I had never been shot at before.
Tory disputed that account in his song Money Over Fallouts.
Making people trying to frame me for a shooting, but them boys ain't cleaning up.
Rapper Drake also appearing to defend Tory on the song Circo Loco.
This about getting shots, but she's still a stallion.
Drake's representatives have not responded to prior requests for comment. Hip-hop fans say the debate on what happened that night has divided the community, leaving some wondering if male artists and fans are condoning violence against women.
The fact that both of the people in this case are so high profile and have their own followings, it makes sense that people would have Team Tory or Team Megan camp. But you add another layer, this concept of believing women. And it gets even deeper when we talk about believing Black women, because far too often in the criminal justice system or in many avenues, Black women are not believed. It's difficult because the criminal justice system will say innocent until proven guilty. And so in saying that, you're basically saying that Megan Thee Stallion was not abused, or we don't know who that is yet. But as this case is being tried in court, it's already been tried in the court of public opinion for the last 2+ years.
In a New York Times op-ed entitled Why I Speak Up for Black Women, Megan writes, "My initial silence about what happened was out of fear for myself and my friends. The way people have publicly questioned and debated whether I played a role in my own violent assault proves that my fears about discussing what happened were unfortunately warranted."
We know Megan Thee Stallion will testify. The question mark is whether or not Tory Lanez will testify, because he has the right not to testify. But I think Kelsey Harris will absolutely testify and take the stand. But the major question in this case is, what's going to happen on cross-examination when the defense starts asking questions of Kelsey? Are they going to be able to create some form of reasonable doubt to suggest that she's the shooter and she's merely covering for herself and Megan and pointing the finger at Tory Lanez?
Zareen Shah joins us now from outside the courtroom in Los Angeles. Zareen, Megan Thee Stallion is expected to testify. Some other high-profile names may also take the stand.
Lindsay, the big question is Kylie Jenner going to testify? There's a lot of speculation about that. Look, Tory and Megan came from her party. They were Instagramming videos with her. The defense said that Tory wanted to stay at her house. And the defense also says that Kylie asked Megan to leave at one point, but there is no indication that Kylie was subpoenaed. And the alleged shooting, of course, happened after this group left her house. The defense also says that Corey Gamble will be testifying. He's, of course, Kris Jenner's longtime partner. He was also at that party before everyone left. The prosecution says that Kelsey will be testifying. She is the friend, and she also texted a man named Justin that Tory shot Megan. They say he will be testifying as well. The doctor who removed that those bullet fragments, he will also be testifying. And of course, the big one you mentioned, Megan Thee Stallion. She's expected to testify tomorrow in court. Look, she was incredibly emotional in that TV interview. She was really emotional in that sound that we heard in court today. So a lot of people wondering what she will say tomorrow in court. Lindsay?
Yeah, people will be all ears on that. Zareen, our thanks to you as always. Still ahead here on Prime, taking the stand. What a police officer says happened in the moments before he shot and killed a black woman in her living room. The tributes continue for the popular journalist who died suddenly while covering the World Cup. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil spill into one of the country's one county as workers rush to repair the oil leak that shut the Keystone pipeline down. We take a close look at the controversy by the numbers. But first, our tweet of the day. Janet Jackson announces a new tour for 2023.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
This is where I belong. This is home. Real dirt in the sunlight again. I'm very excited. Anything can happen at any moment. My heart is so happy right now. We're making magic. We're making magic.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
What just happened?
This was a terrible experience.
Ticketmaster gaslighting us. The website fully crashed.
Nightmare.
So what went wrong?
Everything.
This is really unprecedented.
All of these things were preventable.
Does any part of you blame Taylor?
Ticketmaster or whomever else has to figure out how to solve this before Beyonce announces her tour.
Taylor's Ticketmaster disaster. Impact by Nightline. Now streaming on Hulu.
Zoo! 200! Oh, 200.
200 episodes of Dr. Pol.
Oh.
Music to my ears.
It's been 10 years, and I'm still having fun.
That rocks. He's got the moves that make your animals groove.
Now we do the dance of joy. Yay. He's like the Justin Bieber of the
Headlining the hottest barns.
Shout out.
It's a show you won't want to miss.
I'm not going to be forever. Maybe.
The Incredible Dr. Pol. New episodes Saturdays at 9 on Nat Geo Wild.
This is ABC News Live Prime.
Thanks so much for streaming with us.
Live reporting, breaking news, exclusives, award-winning, powerful, eye-opening. ABC News Live Prime with Lindsay Davis. Streaming weeknights. All across the globe, the world will be celebrating the new year, and you can see it as it happens live. The global celebrations. See the new year as it comes in live. Streaming all day and night on ABC News Live. So, what's good to read? And we mean really good to read right now. Well, that's where Charlie and Kate Gibson can help.
Join us for the new podcast series. It is called The Bookcase with Kate and Charlie.
We will make sure you love what you read.
Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back, everyone. A leak of the Keystone Pipeline has been contained, but the damage and potential impact on gas prices is still unknown. Let's take a look by the numbers. About 14,000 barrels or 588,000 gallons of crude oil leaked from a rupture in the Keystone Pipeline into a Kansas creek last week. That's the largest onshore U.S. crude oil spill in nearly a decade. A government report last year cited 22 previous spills along the Keystone system since its opening in 2010. All combined, those spills added up to about 12,000 barrels, according to the Associated Press. The leak in the 36-inch pipeline was first detected last Wednesday night with a trip alarm sounded just 6 minutes later, and the pipeline and its isolation valves closed 1 minute after that, according to officials. Some 250 people, including environmental specialists, worked to contain the spill near Mill Creek in rural Washington County, Kansas. It still hasn't been determined just what caused the leak, but officials say it appears to have minimal environmental impact so far. The 2,700-mile Keystone line ships some 622,000 barrels per day of heavy Canadian crude from Alberta to U.S. refiners in the Midwest and Gulf Coast. TC Energy, which operates the pipeline, has not yet provided a timeline on the cleanup or how long the shutdown will last. While a prolonged shutdown could impact gas prices, the AAA national average now stands at $3.26 a gallon after dropping 14 cents just in the past week. That's also 6 cents less than the national average 1 year ago. And we still have lots to get to here on Prime tonight. The class action suit against Fortnite and the major legal hurdle cleared for the parents seeking action. The entrance to New York City's Central Park will soon be renamed for a group of 5 men. And the TV and film stars hoping for a win at this year's Golden Globes. But first, look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. With a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning. America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
This is where I belong. This is home. Real dirt in the sunlight again. I'm very excited. Anything could happen at any moment. My heart is so happy right now. We're making magic. We're making magic.
This was a terrible experience.
Ticketmaster gaslighting us.
The website fully crashed.
Nightmare. So what went wrong?
Everything.
This is really unprecedented.
All of these things were preventable.
Does any part of you blame Taylor?
Ticketmaster or whomever else has to figure out how to solve this before Beyonce announces her tour.
Taylor's Ticketmaster disaster. Impact by Nightline. Now streaming on Hulu.
Get ready, America, every Friday. The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff.
Yes! And save big time, too.
The right stuff.
Fridays on GMA.
You're going to love it.
Now streaming on ABC News Live. 2020 true crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime. 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
The U.S. southern border is seeing a major surge in crossings. In El Paso, unauthorized border crossings leading to more than 2,400 arrests and detainments per day. largely driven by migrants from Nicaragua and Ecuador. El Paso's processing center, as well as local shelters and faith-based organizations, are at capacity, with officials having to send many migrants to the Rio Grande Valley to be processed. The surge comes in advance of the likely end of Title 42, the Trump-era policy that allows authorities to expel many migrants immediately. Officials expect a surge of migrants at the border once that policy ends.
The former Fort Worth police officer charged in the fatal 2019 shooting of Atatiana Jefferson took the stand at his trial. Aaron Dean testified he was responding to an open structure call at Jefferson's home. He said he looked in one of the windows and thought there might be a burglary, and he went around the house to look for signs of forced entry. Dean says when he saw someone in the window, he thought it could be a burglar. As he shouted at the person to show their hands, he said he saw a gun pointed at him, prompting him to shoot immediately after giving his command. Jefferson was playing video games in the home with her cousin and had moved toward the window and reached for a gun to investigate the noise coming from outside.
The body of soccer journalist Grant Wahl is back in the U.S. He died while covering the World Cup in Qatar.
In the waning minutes of the drama-filled quarterfinal match between Argentina and the Netherlands, Wahl reportedly collapsing in his seat. Paramedics reportedly trying to revive him on site before he was rushed to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. The cause of Wahl's death still unclear. The 48-year-old, in many ways the voice of soccer in the United States, was covering his 8th World Cup. His packed schedule of covering matches and recording his podcast Football with Grant Wahl wearing on him to the point that he visited a local health clinic. Just one day before his death, Wahl mentioning his battle with bronchitis. Just 3 weeks ago, Wahl wearing this rainbow t-shirt to a World Cup game in Qatar, where same-sex relations are illegal, saying security initially refused to let him into the stadium.
Richmond, Virginia has gotten rid of its last Confederate statue, hosting the likeness of General A.P. Hill.
A judge cleared the way for the removal of Hill's statue last week after rejecting a motion from 4 of his indirect descendants to halt the removal plans. It's the latest in a line of Confederate monuments to come down across the U.S. since the death of George Floyd in 2020. The statue is being kept in storage with plans to eventually move it to the Black History Museum and Cultural Center of Virginia.
Officials in New York City have decided to rename a corner of Central Park to honor the exonerated Central Park 5. The Gate of the Exonerated will be located at the northeast corner of the park, the same area where 5 men entered Central Park on April 19, 1989, and eventually were tied to a crime they did not commit. The group of 5 Black and Latino men were convicted in the brutal attack and rape of a jogger and served time in prison before the real attacker came forward in 2002, allowing the 5 men to have their convictions overturned. The men also received a $41 million settlement from the city in 2014.
After a year-long pause, the Golden Globes are back, honoring the best in movies and TV.
The Banshees of Inisherin led all films with 8 nominations, with Everything Everywhere All at Once receiving 6. On the television side, Abbott Elementary led the way with 5 nominations. The award show is looking for a comeback after last year's ceremony was kept off television, following diversity issues and misconduct allegations within the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Gerard Carmichael will host this year's Globes on January 10th.
Welcome back. Former President Trump's battle with the DOJ over classified documents seized at Mar-a-Lago has come to an end. The Florida judge who had sided with him and appointed a special master dismissed the case. This, of course, comes after an appeals court overruled her. Trump did not challenge that appeals court decision. Parents suing the makers of the popular game Fortnite have cleared a legal hurdle. A judge is now allowing a class action suit to move forward, which claims that the game is specifically designed to get kids addicted. ABC's Mona Kosar-Abdi has more on this.
The makers of the wildly popular video game Fortnite facing a new lawsuit. That newly authorized class action lawsuit filed on behalf of parents in Canada alleges Epic Games designed Fortnite to create a dependency in users and failed to provide warnings of the risks associated with playing. The online video game has more than 250 million registered users worldwide. Boston mom Deanna Greenstein says she noticed her 12 and 13-year-old sons became obsessed almost instantly.
They were coming home from school and they didn't want to go outside and play basketball. They didn't want to go and physically hang out with their friends.
The World Health Organization has categorized video game addiction as a mental health disorder.
They actually, just like with a drug or alcohol, they actually experience withdrawal symptoms. They might feel kind of down or upset or irritable when they're not able to play their games.
In 2019, our Becky Worley followed 10-year-old Cash, who loves Fortnite, and his classmate who doesn't play. To see what actually happens in the brain when he's playing Fortnite, they went to the Marcus Institute of Integrative Medicine at Jefferson Health. Neuroscientist Andrew Newberg uses an fMRI machine to set up a comparison to 3 things: random visuals with color and motion, and a similarly violent game from a few years back, and then to Fortnite.
So the area that really lit up is a dopamine area of the brain.
You can see Cash's brain on the left, Amato's, the non-Fortnite player, on the right. Cash's brain had much greater activation than Amato's.
These are areas that are very involved in our reward system of the brain.
Experts say games like Fortnite have a recipe to make you want to keep playing. Epic Games is pushing back, vowing to fight the allegations in court, saying the claims are meritless. Writing in a statement to ABC News, quote, "We have an industry-leading parental controls that empower parents to supervise their child's digital experience." Questions now on whether the class action lawsuit filed in Quebec could pave the way for similar suits here in the U.S. However, the tool used by the American Psychiatric Association, called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, or DSM, does not classify gaming addiction as a mental disorder.
The people filing it would have to convince the court not to go with the DSM, the American Standard for Mental Disorders, but to go with the World Health Organization standards for what constitutes a mental disorder.
Our thanks to Mona Korsar Abdi. Rap artist Saweetie is known for her unique 90s rap and hip-hop style and even her own meal at McDonald's. But now the 2-time Grammy-nominated artist has started her own nonprofit to teach financial literacy to Black and brown children in underserved communities. Teaming up with her grandmother, the Ice Baby Foundation aims to close the racial wealth gap by teaching entrepreneurship, coding, and other important life skills. Saweetie and her grandmother, Roxanne Harper, join us now from California. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Sweetie, we'll start with you. Just give us a sense of the goals of your foundation and how you're seeking to address the racial wealth gap through this new financial literacy course.
Well, the goal is to go back and teach brown and Black communities. Right now, we're focused in Elk Grove, Oakland, and Vegas, but it's to teach the children about financial literacy. You know, it's not their fault that they're not aware of it, because in our previous generations, we're only focused on, survival mode. But now it's time to teach the kids on how to invest their money, save their money, and spend their money. And I'm just so happy that I'm doing it with my grandmother, because she's been trying to, put this in my head since I was a kid. So this is our platform, and I'm so excited that she's my partner.
Ms. Harper, what do you think that children in particular really are just not learning when it comes to financing or to financial literacy, and especially this concept of new money, right? That people just get the money and want to spend it and not really think about saving it and the best, most judicious way to handle it?
Well, I think it's just what my granddaughter said. Generationally, we have not really, in some of our communities, we find that there's a larger percentage of African Americans that do not have financial literacy skills. And what we're trying to do is to bridge that financial racial gap. This is what the Icy Baby Foundation is all about. It's about bringing tools and skills to underserved communities, especially Black and brown, that are already behind in finances, period. When you look at the household incomes of African Americans versus other ethnic groups, then we're really far behind. We have to do it. They say it takes a village. We have to do everything that we can to make up for that.
And Sweetie, you're a native of Northern California, where you're launching this program among several other areas. How are you rolling the program out? How many young people do you anticipate reaching?
So right now, if I'm correct, we're focused on 400 students. Grandma, is it 400 within the community or in totality?
It's 400 in the 3 cities that we're servicing right now, and we certainly need funding and help, because we want to reach every community of its entire nation. We want to reach every community, but it's 400 licenses that we have right now for the program that we're starting in January.
How did you all end up with this partnership? I mean, sweetie, you were saying that, your grandmother was instilling these values in you. At what point did you say, we need to extend this and bring this out to the community at large?
So if I can just share a quick story, my grandmother would take me to churches, to schools, to homes, always just giving back to the community. But one thing that she always would focus on was going to high schools and teaching the kids about financial literacy. And one time she snuck me in. I was too young. They sent me right back home because I wasn't old enough to hang with the high school kids yet. But she was always trying to make sure that I was learning. Fast forward, now that I have access to resources to give back to the communities, I noticed that I was donating a lot of money to other organizations, but I didn't know where the money was going. My grandmother is someone who I trust, and I know she's going to put it to good use. So I've donated, other partners have donated, but like she said, we're still looking for other partners just so that we can expand beyond California, because right now we're in Sacramento, Oakland, and Vegas.
Do you all feel, though, that this is something, in addition to what you're doing, that we should be seeing more from the education system as well, as local and national government leaders feel that they need to address these issues additionally?
I think that every school district needs to require financial literacy before graduation. And if I'm correct, I think that the number is only 17 states in this country are requiring it as a requirement for graduation. And so we can't wait around for the school districts to try and do their part or anyone else to do their part. We have to do it ourselves. That's what this country is all about. We should give a helping hand. And like my granddaughter said, this is our part of giving back. Even though it's a great task and we can't do it all ourselves, we're going to do everything that we can to give back. And right now we're focusing on, because we try to get into the school district and it's not always easy. So we're focusing on youth sports right now. So we're going to the youth sports teams, and that's how we're getting all of the young people to come and sign up for this program.
Grandma Harper, before you go, can you just give us one tip that you would like for people, for example, the $25 that goes onto the debit card? How would you like to see that $25 put to use? What would be smart, that incrementally, a valuable lesson for us all?
I would like them to learn, if they don't learn anything else, that $25, if they invest it, it's going to turn into $2,500. So we're not just giving them money so that they can go, because one of the young people said to me, I can buy a PS3. I'm like, no, just come to the sessions and we're going to show you some other options of what you can do with your money. And I think it's a vital lesson. It's very important and something that we have to teach our children. And the fact that this app that we're going to be using with Goal Setters is a financial app that's tied, that the debit card is going to be tied to an app. They can't even spend the money until they go through the financial literacy quizzes.
Grandma Harper, sweetie, we thank you both so much for your time and all that you're doing. All the best of luck with the program.
Thank you so much for having us.
And before we go tonight, the image of the day. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas all over the world. And you can see Christmas trees are being set up globally, including this one in Aleppo, Syria. And that is our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. In the next hour, staying on top of a few things, the intense search for answers in the murder of 4 University of Idaho students, what police say they're not releasing. Legendary coach Tom Coughlin and quarterback Eli Manning talk about how they pulled off one of the great upsets in NFL history.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
After an extraordinary news-making year, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and politics show on Sunday mornings.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yes, Whoopi! This mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's what people don't see during the commercial break.
Right. They don't.
What happened? I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasured that day. I couldn't sit there.
You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good.
Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
Behind the Table. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
From America's #1 news source comes the all-new ABC News app. Breaking news, incredible video, faster, smarter, and it can customize to you and your interests. If you love being in the know, you're gonna love this. Experience what all the buzz is about. Experience the all-new ABC News app. Download it now. We're honored ABC's 2020 winner of 3 Emmy Awards for excellence. Thank you for making 2020 Friday night's most watched and most honored news magazine.
This is where I belong. This is home. Real dirt in the sunlight again. I'm very excited. Anything could happen at any moment. My heart is so happy right now. We're making magic. We're making magic.
Hi there, I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. An explosive first day of opening statements in the trial of rapper Tory Lanez, who's accused of shooting Grammy-winning artist Megan Thee Stallion, whose real name is Megan Pete. According to prosecutors, Lanez, whose real name is Daystar Peterson, told Pete to dance as he shot 5 rounds at her, resulting in an injury to her foot for which she received medical treatment. The defense for Peterson said that he never told her to dance and said this case is about jealousy. Peterson has pleaded not guilty. ABC News has confirmed Megan Pete will testify tomorrow. As police investigate the mysterious murders of 4 University of Idaho students, the chief says an army of analysts are combing through the videos submitted to the FBI tip website. It's been nearly 1 month since the roommates were killed inside an off-campus house. While no suspects have been identified, local police have said that they are withholding from release, quote, a lot of information they have from the public in order to not compromise the investigation. And the American Diabetes Association has released new guidelines for managing all forms of the illness. Doctors now suggest overweight patients should lose 15% of their body weight instead of the 5%, saying there now are more prescription medication options to achieve those goals. They're also advocating for lowering the target for LDL cholesterol or bad cholesterol for people without heart disease and 55 for those with heart disease. Now to the coast-to-coast storms packing a major punch tonight in California, Sierra Nevada mountains. Trains worked today to plow snow off the tracks after as much as 6 feet of snow fell in some areas. And now the system is headed to the heartland. Our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, has the track in a second. But first, Mola Lange reports from Lake Tahoe, California.
It brought feet of snow to the west, and now that massive, powerful winter storm system is making a run across the country. Blizzard warnings posted for the northern plains. The National Weather Service warning travel may become impossible due to the heavy snow and strong winds. On I-84 in Utah, a charter bus traveling from Boise to Salt Lake City overturning on slick roads before dawn. More than 20 people hurt. The storm blasting the Sierra Nevada mountains with snowfall rates over 4 inches an hour and hurricane-force wind gusts over the weekend.
The storm dumped a few feet of snow on the Lake Tahoe area, burying homes, knocking out power lines, canceling schools. Residents will likely be digging out for days.
Near Donner Pass, plow trains racing to clear the tracks. And in the Northeast, the first significant snowfall overnight, more than 9 inches in spots. Slick roads, testing drivers. Wrecks across the Boston area Sunday. Boston's Logan Airport dealing with a combination of snow and de-icing delays. Dozens of flights canceled.
And let's get right to our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z. Now, Ginger, time these storms out for us.
Yes, it's really important to watch as this blasts across the country how many people are going to be involved, because right now my in-laws in Tucson, Arizona are under a winter weather advisory, but all the way up to Ironwood, Michigan. So there's a lot of folks that are involved here, Lindsay, and wind alerts, and then really that blizzard warning is what I want to focus in on first. So parts of Colorado, Montana, eastern Wyoming, but look at that Rapid City in South Dakota. Easily, if you're traveling Interstate 90 through there, we're talking about the types of winds that will be in excess of 35 miles per hour, coming with that blowing snow, visibility to nearly zero. So the highways, 80 or 90, going to be really tough, especially as those kind of isobars, as we call them, tighten up. And that means just super windy conditions. Now, that's the northern side. You could see up to 2 feet of snow in some of those plains areas. On the southern side, it's going to be all about the severe storms. And that starts tonight. We've got a tornado threat, damaging wind threat that includes Wichita Falls, Texas, up to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then by tomorrow afternoon, we move that same line associated with the cold front over to Alexandria or Shreveport. And so you see, we stopped it there at 5 p.m. It's blasting through even eastern Arkansas, eventually Memphis. The worst of the severe stuff looks to be on the southern side, because this time of year you need the heat and the moisture. New Orleans by Wednesday at 5 p.m. So there's the kind of tornado risk for tomorrow, and it includes parts of Texas, Mississippi, and Arkansas. But we want to move it to the Northeast, because this is what you need to see. If you're living in the Northeast, you say, okay, I feel it tonight. Winter's certainly here. Well, we ripped the Band-Aid off, and we're not going to be able to put it back on. You see right there, interior New England especially, and parts of the Northeast away from the coast are going to pick up more snow. And I'm talking 6 to 12 inches by the end of this week and the start of the weekend, Lindsay.
Most of us will not make it through this unscathed in some manner or form or fashion here. Ginger, our thanks to you. Now, we do have some breaking news that we're tracking out of the Bahamas. Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of crypto exchange FTX, has been arrested. Let's get straight to Aaron Katersky, who is here with us now. Aaron, as you were sitting down, you said that this came as a bit of a surprise.
We knew Sam Bankman-Fried had been under investigation, Lindsay, ever since the collapse of FTX, but he was supposed to testify before Congress tomorrow. So at least lawmakers did not anticipate his arrest tonight. But we just got word from the Prime Minister of the Bahamas that his nation, along with the United States, are committed to holding as many people accountable as possible for the collapse of the crypto exchange, and they want to see justice done. Word is that he was arrested on a warrant out of the United States. The specific charges aren't yet known, but we understand that that indictment should be unsealed tomorrow.
Just 30 years old, Sam Bankman-Fried is. What do we know about the investigation and the billions of dollars that seemed to vanish as this business imploded?
Vanish in an instant, Lindsay, really. And while we don't know the specific charges, we do know the general direction of the investigation by federal prosecutors here in New York, along with securities regulators. They were looking at Sam Bankman-Fried's use of customer funds from FTX to satisfy orders from Alameda Research, which was the trading firm that he founded, and whether, the question is, did he misappropriate funds from one entity to the other?
Is there any chance for people who invested in FTX to get some money back?
That's going to be the big question, whether the authorities can recover any of the missing funds. But so far, at least publicly, we don't know where that money really is. The authorities have had some luck in recovering funds from schemes past. Think of Bernie Madoff. Just last week, they recovered another $14 million. Okay. So now those investors, those victims are 70% whole. But here, this is a whole new kind of scheme, although the investigation seems to be more traditional, misusing customer funds in one entity to satisfy the debts of another entity, if that's what the charges actually are.
The classic robbing Peter to pay Paul, it seems. Right. Aaron Katersky, our thanks to you, as always. Next to the U.S.-Mexico border and a new surge of asylum seekers as a pandemic-era policy is about to end imminently and may overwhelm resources and push already stretched border communities to their breaking points. Matt Rivers reports from just over the El Paso border in Mexico.
These are the scenes in the shadow of downtown El Paso. Hundreds of migrants crossing the Rio Grande in a matter of hours overnight. Border Patrol only able to process a handful of migrants at a time, allowing women and children to go first to stay out of the cold. Many forced to spend the night on the riverbank, burning whatever they could find for warmth.
There are hundreds of people lined up on the other side of this river here. I've been coming to this exact spot in Ciudad Juarez for years now, covering migration. I've never seen anything quite like this.
Migrant facilities quickly overwhelmed. Border Patrol officials telling ABC News they are at capacity and have to send migrants elsewhere along the border. Unauthorized border crossings in El Paso are now averaging more than 2,400 arrests and detainments per day. Today, adults carrying children through the river This ahead of next week's possible end of Title 42, a Trump-era policy that allows for the immediate expulsion of migrants without allowing them to seek asylum. Onedis and her daughter came from Venezuela. They are waiting to cross until next week.
Yo tengo fe que sí pueda pasar. De
She
que
has
pueda
faith that
pasar.
she'll be able to get in. Pero si no puedes entrar, ¿qué vas a hacer?
Ahora de verdad no sé.
She doesn't know what she'll do if they don't let her back in.
Onedi's telling me she wants to cross legally.
Quiero hacer las cosas bien.
And she wants to make it to the U.S. for her daughter.
So many with that same story. Our thanks to Matt. Now to the court appearance for the man accused of building the bomb that took down Pan Am Flight 103, which was the second largest terror attack against Americans ever. The plane exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland, just ahead of Christmas in 1988, killing 270 people, most of them U.S. citizens. Here's ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas.
It was the horror that played out just before Christmas nearly 34 years ago, the second deadliest terror attack on Americans ever. Pan Am Flight 103, the massive 747, was in the air less than an hour before an explosion in the cargo hold sent the plane plunging from 31,000 feet into the Scottish countryside, killing 270 people, 190 of them Americans, including 35 Syracuse University students on their way home for the holidays after studying abroad. With so much debris from that falling plane, 11 people were killed on the ground. And tonight, the man accused of building the bomb that blew up Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988, making his first appearance in a U.S. court. The FBI claims while in prison, he confessed to a Libyan officer that he built the bomb that brought down the plane. And in court today, authorities on how he carried out the bombing and how the bomb was made. According to the Justice Department, Abu Aguila Masood brought the bomb made from a cassette recorder and hidden in a suitcase, wrapping the bomb in clothing and bringing the suitcase to the airport in Malta, where it was loaded into the cargo system unaccompanied by any passenger. Eventually, it made its way onto the flight at London's Heathrow Airport before departing for New York. Masood, a Libyan intelligence officer under Muammar Gaddafi, now the first suspect charged in the bombing to appear in an American courtroom. The tragic loss still raw for the families of the victims. Victoria Cummick's husband, John, 38 at the time, was killed on that flight.
I wasn't sure if, within my lifetime, we would be able to see the day.
The families of those 35 Syracuse University students have never given up hope for justice either. Kara Weeps lost her brother.
I was woken up and it was like, wait, is this a dream? And it was unbelievable that it was really happening after all these years.
A memorial on the Syracuse campus just weeks ago.
Those lives not forgotten. Our thanks to Pierre for that. Tonight, health officials in the country's two largest cities, Los Angeles and New York, are urging people to mask up inside this holiday season. The surge in RSV, the flu, and COVID, they all continue. And American hospitals are at nearly 80% capacity. Our Stephanie Ramos has the latest.
With COVID cases now surging on the heels of flu and RSV, tonight, health officials from Los Angeles to New York are urging people to mask up indoors to stop the spread.
Part of me feels like I should be wearing a mask just to protect myself because the numbers are going up. The other part of me feels like I've received 4 vaccines and I don't feel like I would, end up on a ventilator or would be hospitalized. It would be maybe a minor cold.
Nearly 80% of adult hospital beds are already full, capacity strained by a perfect storm of COVID, flu, and RSV. The University of New Mexico Hospital has never seen it this bad. They had to set up this surge tent inside a parking garage.
Our emergency departments have been holding somewhere between 80 to 100 patients that are admitted that are waiting for beds in the hospital because the hospital is so full.
COVID cases are climbing. The number of Americans dying of COVID is up 62% in the last week. 90% of the deaths are people 65 and older.
I don't want to be dramatic about this, but I also want to be very honest about it.
Experts warn the Omicron subvariants circulating now are increasingly immune evasive. With holiday gatherings looming, they stress it's critical that seniors and the immunocompromised get that new Omicron targeted booster shot now.
It's really important that people sort of shake off this COVID fatigue and lethargy.
Really want people to get over that COVID fatigue. Our thanks to Stephanie. Next tonight, to the U.S. student who has been missing in France. Tonight, his family is getting increasingly desperate as they have not heard from him now in 2 weeks. James Longman reports.
Tonight, the FBI is now involved in the search for missing college student Kenny DeLand Jr., last seen 9 days ago in this surveillance image. He was wearing a red jacket going into a sporting goods store in southern France. The 22-year-old senior at St. John Fisher University in Rochester, New York, was due to come home this week for the holidays after a semester abroad. The family says they fear the worst.
It's not characteristic of Kenny to not reach out to us and let us know what's going on.
But late last month, his mother got a call from a school liaison who told her Kenny hadn't shown up for class.
She had to file a missing persons report because they had not seen him in 24 hours.
Tonight, the prosecutor's office in Grenoble saying Kenny told several people that he arrived in France insufficiently prepared and had difficulty making friends, adding that he seems to have left Grenoble voluntarily. The last time Kenny's parents heard from him was on November 27. They say he boarded a train near the university and headed south, his phone pinging along the way. On December 3rd, Kenny was seen at the sporting goods store, some 60 miles from the home of his host family. He reportedly spent about $9 and left.
If anybody has a way to help us and find him, help us. With the officials, please help us.
Lindsay, French authorities are leading this investigation. They call it a worrying disappearance. But because of French privacy laws, they can't reveal all the information that the family wants. Because Kenny, although he is a student, he is still an adult. The family just want him home. Lindsay?
Understandably so. James, thank you. Still to come, schools and houses burned to ashes and more communities now at risk. The efforts to stop the flames from spreading through part of South America. And it's a game most sports fans will never forget. And now the coach behind the infamous win is looking back at his victory. Tom Coughlin and quarterback Eli Manning tell us how they won one of the greatest games ever played. This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
in Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine,
Close to the front line.
here at the White House, destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5. Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go. We made it.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Bring them on. If only there was a place in the morning to start my day. With a smile, somewhere to help me get in the know. A place that's spectacular as well. Me.
I think we might know a place, right, guys?
Bring your friends. Oh, wait, there is.
Good morning, America.
GMA, 7A, every day. Boom. Boom. Boom.
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Robin. Good morning, America. How are you?
Boom. Now that's how you start your day, people.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yes.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do? Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
As of today, in a big way, we have inaugurated abcnews.com.
A lot has changed in our world since Peter made that announcement. But what hasn't changed is the commitment to groundbreaking reporting and innovation at abcnews.com. And here's to everything ahead.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
Welcome back. We're tracking several headlines around the world. Russian President Vladimir Putin has canceled his traditional year-end press conference for the first time in at least a decade. The news comes as Russian troops continue to lose ground in Ukraine. Putin's annual speech to both houses of Russia's parliament is similar to the U.S. president's annual State of the Union address. Another protester was executed this morning in Iran. The 22-year-old was hanged in his hometown and immediately buried. He was arrested on November 19th, was not allowed to hire his own lawyer, and was executed executed just 23 days later. At least 20 more people are currently either on death row or charged with crimes like waging war against God that are punishable by execution, according to Iranian official news agencies. A school and several houses burned to ashes as wildfires raged in central Chile. The government is scrambling efforts to control several active fires that have consumed more than 8,000 acres and put neighboring residential areas at risk. Forest fires are common around the southern summer season, when high temperatures and strong winds help fires to spread rapidly. The season has brought a total of 44 fires throughout that country. It's a game that will go down as one of the greatest ever played, an upset that lives on in NFL infamy. The New York Giants, considered underdogs, beat the 18-0 Patriots in Super Bowl 42 against all odds. Now, legendary coach Tom Coughlin is looking back at the victory in his new book, A Giant Win, with a foreword with a quarterback who was right by his side to win 2 Super Bowls, Eli Manning. The two sat down with our Trevor Ault to talk about their friendship, an ongoing friendly rivalry with Tom Brady, and Coughlin's time as a caretaker for his wife.
Coach Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning, thanks so much for making time for us. I got to admit, this is the only interview where I've been tempted to be 5 minutes late just to see what would happen.
That would have been a bad decision by you, I think.
Yeah, it would have been the wrong foot to start the interview off on. Your book is full of a ton of good stories. I know you said to Michael Strahan earlier that you believe that this was the best Super Bowl of all time.
I do.
Why do you believe that?
Because it's against an opponent that was the greatest scoring machine in the history of the National Football League, all the statistics, and no one pointed to the fact they were fourth in many categories on the defensive side of the ball. They had great personnel. They had played well together. We had played them in week 17. We go out, they beat us 38-35, but we led the game. We were in the fourth quarter with the lead. But when we walked off the field that night, we knew we could play with them.
It's funny how you started that answer verbatim with something that I wrote down from the book, which is, we knew they were the greatest scoring machine in NFL history, just like we knew Tom Brady was the best quarterback to ever play the game. Does that hurt your feelings?
No, no. The guy's got 7 Super Bowls. He's got 5 or 6 MVPs. He's 44, still playing at an elite level. Does not hurt my feelings. And, you know, I was just fortunate to be on 2 great teams, to be able to take him down, including that 2007 team. And, you know, I've gotten to know Tom over the years, and I never say anything to him, and I never talk about that game, but he brings it up. That game bothers him badly because they would go down as the greatest team in the history of the NFL probably, and they can't say that because we beat them, and it hurts them and it bothers them. So I kind of like having that on him.
But, you know, 15 years down the line, what makes this Super Bowl and this story worth telling still?
Well, to me, certainly the greatest upset in the history of the Super Bowl, but it's also the timing. You know, we've been through COVID. We're in a recession. We have all kinds of people, and anybody that's down on their luck or, you know, had a bad day or whatever can relate to this, because it's about hope and inspiration. Because all you got to do is first of all, they wanted to fire the coach. The coach was gone after the 06 season, okay, and had to battle to get, really, quite frankly, to get his job back. The second half of the season wasn't easy. And yet we, you know, just hung in there and made things happen and got ourselves in position. Between hope, between inspiration, and between someone telling you can't do something, the reality of that, you can't underestimate it.
I mean, you talk about in your forward how the two of you were bonded, not just from your successes, but also you know what it's like to have New York want to run you out of town at the same time too, right? I would imagine it makes the success all the more sweeter, right?
No doubt. And that year, 2007, we were both on the hot seat. We started 0-2, but we never got down. We never started making excuses or panicking. It wasn't easy, but we hung together. We stuck together as a close team. It was special. There was something special about the group.
It's hard to describe that feeling. I mean, I said to John Mara, I said, John, you know, I'm not big on parades. I don't know if, he said, you're not going to want to miss this one. And my God, thank God. And here we are coming down, 2 million people hanging out of the buildings and throwing confetti down.
I'm curious because when that happened, it was the story. It was an unbelievable upset. Everyone knew what a huge moment that was. 15 years down the line, do you feel any differently about it? Do you have any new thoughts about it?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I was really invigorated by thinking about the game again. You match up the greatest quarterback in the history of the game with probably the greatest big game quarterback in the history of the game. I'm looking out at the field on that 3rd and 7, and 3 guys have got Eli in their grasp. And he wiggles his way out somehow, and we got David Tyree going to the post. Next thing I know, he's launching a ball down the middle of the field. I'm going, oh no, don't overthrow, don't overthrow that ball in the middle of the field. This kid goes up in the air. He catches the ball in two hands. He's got a safety, Rodney Harris.
This was a terrible experience.
Ticketmaster gaslighting us. The website fully crashed.
Nightmare. So what went wrong?
Everything.
This is really unprecedented.
All of these things were preventable.
Does any part of you blame Taylor?
Ticketmaster or whomever else has to figure out how to solve this before Beyonce announces her tour.
Taylor's Ticketmaster disaster. Impact by Nightline. Now streaming on Hulu. With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir. America's #1 most watched newscast. Now streaming on ABC News Live. After an extraordinary news-making year, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and politics show on Sunday mornings.
Zoo! 200! Oh, 200.
200 episodes of Dr. Pol. Oh. Music to my ears.
It's been 10 years, and I'm still having fun.
That rocks. He's got the moves that make your animals groove.
Now we do the dance of joy. Yay! He's like the Justin Bieber of the
Headlining the hottest barns.
Shout out.
It's a show you won't want to miss.
I'm not going to be forever. Maybe.
The Incredible Dr. Pol. New episodes Saturdays at 9 on Nat Geo Wild.
Side and knew there was more to this man than just football.
When you're in that year coaching, you've got Eli, you've got my now coworker, Michael Strahan. Were you looking at the roster thinking this team has an incredible future in broadcasting after football?
What I was really thinking is these two have a really great sense of humor. They'll be really good after they get done, after they hang it up.
Once you're done with them, then they'll be good on TV.
Yeah, they'll be able to really exert their personalities once they get away from me.
Any tough love feedback to improve the Manning cast?
No, I couldn't even advise. Those guys are way, way beyond me.
They just keep making fun of Peyton, basically.
Right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
General.
Basically.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Coach, before you wrote